Call the meeting to order for the select board meeting for November 25th. I will stand for the pledge of allegiance. Andy, would you lead us in the pledge of allegiance, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second it.
Moved and seconded. The town manager has asked that we add an agenda item for the sale of fire trucks. Is there anything else? I'm gonna add that between the police department update and the tax sale. Anything else? All in favor on the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Approval of minutes for November 11th.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes of November 11th, 2024.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes. The elusive Bob Spalding wasn't here, but yet he voted all through the whole thing.
Was I on Zoom by any chance?
No?
No?
You
We're
were
not.
here.
Okay.
But you were here, but you weren't here. You're not here.
Most of the motions say 5-0, but Bob was not here. That's correct.
It wasn't
No,
by
Bob was here for this one.
Yes, he wasn't here by Zoom. You were literally here, and it says you were not.
Oh, so you need to add Bob to the present.
Right.
Thank you, Mary Lee.
On page 2, the paragraph before the recreation update, next to the last sentence, help from other board members and reviewing what has happened at the school and what programs entail. I think his presence of, I think reviewed should be reviewing, and his presence of should be crossed off.
Mm-hmm.
And down in the next, the Alex change order, the very first line, it says, he has provided. I think you can take has right out and just say, he provided a bid. And on the bottom line, there should be a comma after property. On page 3, at the top, when you're talking about engine 6, I think E should be a capital and S should be a capital. It's a particular vehicle, and that's all I found today.
Rob, you have anything?
Yeah, I do on the first page. Second line, on the citizens' comments, second line down, he feels there are about 8 in Hydeville that needs attention, that should probably need attention. The next one, especially the one by the store on the corner. We don't know what store he was talking about there. We should probably put down, I believe that was by the Citgo or whatever. And then the last sentence, CMO stated at Castleton Corners, maybe stated that it is at the Castleton Corners. That's all I have.
Mark?
I'm good.
Rob?
I'm good.
Or Bob? Okay, on page 2, discussion regarding the former village school. 1, 2, 3, fourth line down. November, he will be willing to consider taking the property off the real estate market. He didn't actually say at that meeting that he was going to, he said he would consider it. Next paragraph down, first line, the 3/4 of the way through, the word 2 should be stricken and the word 4 in its place, so the podium 4 discussion. Last paragraph, second line down, it should be 120 volt AC power, not just 120 power, for clarity. I think that's all I had. It wasn't already mentioned. Yeah, that's all I have.
What was the last one?
In this last paragraph on page 2, second line down, we should add in, after, between 120 and power, 120 volt AC power, just for clarity's purposes. And that's the only thing I had that wasn't already mentioned. So, no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Citizens' comments, items not on the agenda. You can go first, ma'am. I do not know your name, so you can come up to the podium and tell everyone your name and where you live.
My name is Mary Atkinson. I'm new to town. I live in Crystal Heights, up in Bonazine. I was curious about how to establish a leash law in that neighborhood. I've called the Castleton Police Department, and they have let me know that there is no leash law currently there. And I am currently expecting, and my neighbor's dogs have continued to intimidate and come after me. So I don't know how we get that started, but that's part of the reason why I am here.
We're gonna have to take a look at the animal control ordinance. There is an animal control ordinance in place.
Yes, it only currently applies to if the dogs are on our property. So they have come into our property several times. They've come out onto the road. They've attacked me and my dog, and I'm trying to get out of this before there's a baby that I have to tend to as well.
So we need to put that to the dog warden or the animal control officer.
Well, first thing I'm gonna do is review the animal control ordinance to make sure I am clear on what it says. And then, and what's your address, Mary?
229 Crystal Heights.
Because I can do a, Google stock on the property and
Yeah, no worries.
and then we'll do something. I'll get a hold of the chief and we'll see what we can do.
Thank you.
That's all I can offer right now.
Yeah.
But
Please keep me in the loop.
I will do that.
Mary, if you can contact me at the office or give me your phone number so we can reach back out to you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to give it out over the public, so.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you could, Mary, if you could call Hannah tomorrow at the town office and give her your contact info, that might be the easiest thing to do. Hannah's the administrative assistant.
I know who she is.
Okay. Yeah, so and then when we want to get back to you, we can do that easily.
That'd be great. Thank you, guys.
You're most welcome. Anything else? Citizens' comments? Andy, you're up.
Andy Vermillier, Birdseye Road, representing the Friends of Castleton Parks and Rec tonight. We're about to start our annual fund campaign. So this will be our first capital campaign, and we're looking to fundraise for the rec center that's now off the market. And we're hoping to get your blessing on our goal being a new gym floor in that building. And we don't want to fundraise for something and make that public without the select board knowing what our intentions are and feeling comfortable with us doing that. So I'm letting you know our intentions, so I guess if there are any issues with that, you should certainly let us know before we get something off the ground.
We're going to have to discuss that as a board. I'm not sure if we want to do that. Do we want to do that now?
Why not?
I'm not opposed to a new gym floor. I am opposed to using taxpayer money at this point because it's not budgeted. But if you can make it happen, I'm certainly not going to get in your way.
Yeah, any improvements you guys can do are okay.
I mean, I can't speak for the whole board. I can only speak for me.
Yeah, I mean, it appears you're not looking for any taxpayer money. This is something that you believe you can fundraise and complete. Yeah, I think that's fabulous. Really applaud the efforts that you and the group have made.
Just quickly, Andy, what kind of material, have you already looked into it?
Yeah, so this is not going to be like a 6-month campaign and we have a gym floor. It's going to take a while. So this annual fund campaign would start to fundraise, so we have some funds that we can match to grants and bring some bigger donors in. Over the next couple of months, we're going to, get estimates, figure out. We have some ideas as a group, but nothing's set in stone yet, and we can keep you in the loop with how that turns out. But we're looking like $100,000, like a big ticket
You're
item.
looking at a nice floor.
Yeah.
And certainly, we would need to approve any work before it was done. Make sure that see what the specs were and,
We don't expect to make any decisions about, the finished product. We'll make recommendations to you all. That would be our plan.
Mary McIntyre, also with friends from Castleton. Our thought was to be very see-through, so that you guys, we didn't surprise you. We want for this to be a community project. We're not looking for taxpayer dollars. We are prepared to do fundraising. We checked just roughly with one vendor, and just so we know what we were up against, just to get an idea. And it's a challenge that the group really feels that we are up to, and that the building is.
All right, well, I'll just say that I think the board is totally prepared to support you, and then we'll stay out of the way until you tell us what you need from us. Okay?
Sounds good. We'll keep
All
you in
right.
the loop.
fantastic, thanks, guys.
Go ahead, Mike.
I just had a question. They're a 501c3, so the money they fundraise is gonna be in their account, right? It's not gonna, town's not gonna account for that money?
We will handle all the financial fundraising, and that's a tax exempt organization.
And expenditures.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
Thank you.
I would guess too, since we're gonna put a lot of work into that, if there is other building issues that came up that you knew about, that maybe a volunteer group like ours doesn't know about, that might be helpful if you let us know about that too.
Fair enough. And I will tell you this, and anytime you start working on an old building, there are always surprises.
But if you guys already know about something that we don't know about, that would be
We'll make sure we communicate with.
perfect. Thank you.
The list is long.
Anything else? Citizens' comments, anybody else? Anybody on Zoom, Mike?
Anybody on Zoom, no hands up. Anybody have a question for the board?
Okay, then we're gonna move on. Okay, Mike, you're up. Truck ordering timeline discussion.
All right, I don't want to talk like Jeff's not on, because he is. And is Sandy Ladd, Sandy?
I'm here.
Okay, so Sandy Ladd's here representing Charlie Boyce. So why we're here and why we're talking about this is there was a delay in ordering our truck. I think the minutes reflect February that the board made a decision to switch to the Freightliner. And it wasn't until May 23rd, I believe, that Sandy got the signed copy of that agreement.
Switch to the Western Star.
Yeah, switch to the Western Star. Did I say Freightliner?
Said Freightliner.
Thank you. Switching from Freightliner to Western Star. We missed out on the last, to be able to order it. So time has gone by since that May 23rd timeframe. There was an issue that came up about whether it was going to be an Allison transmission or Detroit DT12 transmission. We had two members of the highway department go up and drive them. There was discussion, I had discussions with some of the select board members, with the highway foreman, and we're at this point where if we're going to go with the Allison transmission, there's a delay in ordering it. And we had two operators, highway department operators, drive the truck. One wasn't impressed by it, and the other one was kind of didn't really say good or bad. They did drive it. So then it comes back to what the town wants to do as far as ordering a truck in a timeline, because once we order the truck, then it's got to get put in a queue for a plow. And I asked Jeff to do some research on that, which he did, and there's really two big shows in town around here. One is HP Fairfield, who basically sell packages, and then Viking. So we're at this point, at this juncture of, do we wait until when Sandy can put in for the, submit the Western Star for, putting it into the queue for bid, or for build, and then getting into Viking's queue to get the plow package put on it. We could be talking anywhere from 12 to 18 months probably. Sandy, is it August that you could, when you can order that next one?
Yeah, you mind if I stand up? 'Cause I'm-
So if you could come up to the
I
podium.
would prefer you come
Sorry,
to,
please.
yeah.
First, thanks for having me come down. So, the current build slots we have right now are for second quarter, if we were to order manual transmission or Detroit DT12. So those would be built anywhere in April, May, June timeframe. So we could be anywhere in that 6-month average time to get a chassis built. And then the timing to then have it get in line at Viking, I don't want to speak on their behalf, but it appears it could be up to a year or more for that chassis to get in their pipeline.
Is that from the date that it's in the build queue, or from when when the chassis is in our possession?
When the chassis, so if we build second quarter and that chassis arrived in Milton by June, July, worst case scenario, it could be another year for it to get in their slot. They are behind because they are the only local Vermont build site.
And if we wanted to wait for the Allison transmission?
So, just to give you a little background of what's happened with Allison transmissions, we had your build slot set for this quarter for this year. So your chassis should have been built with an Allison transmission at this time. We were notified in June, I believe it was, that there were no more Allison transmissions available for this year. So we then moved your fourth quarter build, which would have been built about this time, to a first quarter build slot, which would have been January, February, March. What we found out in September, when we could start putting those orders in the system, is that Allison transmission could not provide any transmissions of the 4000 series that we use in tandems. If you had a single axle plow truck, those transmissions are available. It's a 3000 series, smaller transmission. The 4000 series are not going to be available to us for all 4 quarters of next year. So the options are either the manual transmission, or most of our Allison customers are switching to the DT12. Will there be Allison transmissions available first quarter 2026? I'm not sure. I would hope that they would be catching up. Their challenge has been, my understanding is Allison transmission has been forcing production on the union, and the union has cut back to 2 shifts on that production line for the 4000 series, which amounts to 200 transmissions a day. And about 250,000 trucks are built in the industry, so they not only fallen behind, but to catch back up is going to take quite some time, at least for our product lines. Is that helpful?
Well, so to add some additional information to it, which I included in that packet, I asked Jeff to follow up, and if we were to go with a different, with the International, what that would, with an Allison transmission, I forgot, like 4500 series or something like that.
It is exactly what you should do.
That, what that would look like, and don't want to insult you, Sandy,
No.
and I think you already had that conversation.
If you find one,
Yeah.
you're going to be doing well.
Is to look at like HP Fairfield, which is more of a regional manufacturer, could we get a truck sooner with the Allison transmission and the plow package on it from a different vendor? And I put the prices on there, what I believe to be true, on that front page. So that's kind of where the ball falls into the select board's court. Are you willing to wait for a longer build time for the Western Star with an Allison transmission? Or do you go the Western Star with a DT12 transmission in it? Or do you look and see if there's another option?
When you say a D212, is that a normal standard automatic?
That's the automated manual transmission, that one that's on the column, the one that our guys drove.
And they didn't like it?
I didn't talk personally to Mike Smith, but Jeff's on, but Mike Smith is the one that didn't like it, and Evan was kind of, yeah, you know, it could take getting used to, that kind of stuff. I think the words were that he kind of bucked himself almost through the ceiling when he was leaving the parking lot. But it would take some time and to get used to it, and but we have nothing we have nothing to train people on right now, so it's gonna be like jump in and go, and when you're plowing, that's probably the last thing I would want to have to experience is something new while I'm, because it depends on what time frame it comes in.
Well, he doesn't even know if he can get it in 26, so.
I mean, one thing I could do for the board is we could look at what, we could take everything that Sandy's given us for information, and then go to HP Fairfield and see what the timeline would be for the Allison transmission on that, and, because they sell the Freightliner and the International with the Allison transmission, but if Allison transmissions are behind, are they gonna be in the same boat? I don't know that. And maybe Jeff, if you heard that, I'm not sure if you had that conversation or not of their timelines.
Yeah, well, the HP Fairfield right now has older trucks with the Allison that they charge more for the 26 DT12. So you could get a International 25 with the Allison, but it would actually cost you more than the Western Star.
Yeah, but it's not, I did the numbers on it, and it come out to be like $1,000 difference.
Yeah, but the Western Star is like a $20,000 more cab and chassis.
I get it, but it's gonna be, what we're arguing about, it's just, the timeline is gonna be, 26, maybe 27? For like a rival date?
Sandy, can you touch on the manual shift trucks like you did with me the other day?
Yeah, so this DT12 is not new. We've had it out in our over-the-road Cascadia tractors, the trucks you see going up and down hauling tractor trailers. It's been out for well over 12 years. So it is well in tune, and actually that's about the only transmission that's sold in over-the-road trucks that go on the highway currently. What this transmission is a vocational version of that transmission. So it is built for heavier weight, higher torque, higher horsepower than what the on-highway version is, and it also doesn't have some of those vocational options. So it has a rock-free mode, like you're slipping the clutch and getting yourself out of a mud pit. It also has a paver mode. There are other things that are engineered in that. There are, like, for example, 20 specific codes that I order for a plow truck for this DT12. So it certainly isn't anything new, but it is an automated manual transmission. So it is a manual transmission that has no clutch. It is all electronically driven. It's made by Detroit, the same people that make the engine. They plug into each other, and it is seamless, but it does shift. Unlike your Allison transmission that has a torque converter, so it is a 6-speed transmission, but it takes all those little mini shifts. That's why you have a nice, smooth acceleration power curve. The automated manual, if it doesn't have any weight on it, may, and very well, will start out in 5th gear, for example, maybe use 5th, 7th, 8th, 9th, go right to 12th gear. Under heavy loads, it will use all the gears that is required, and has 12 forward gears and 2 reverse gears. So it is different, and if you're expecting the DT12 to perform like the Allison transmission, it will not. In some cases, though, it will perform much better. You have more control over the DT12 than you do an Allison transmission. Rather, when you do put it into manual mode, it will stay in the gear that you choose. The torque converter will not give you a mini shift or give you slippage when you're in a tough spot. And also the J brake works fully to a stop and forward and fully to a stop and reverse, which the Allison transmission cannot. But I don't want you guys to be purchasing a transmission that you're not completely comfortable with. And totally fine and not offended if you don't purchase Western Star with DT12, whether you wait or whether you find another product out there with an Allison transmission. Completely understand, but I want you to be a happy customer. I've had 10 municipalities, 18 drivers, including your 2 drivers, drive that, and I've gotten 16 positive feedback results, and even some of them said they wish they would have purchased this DT12 instead of their Allison, the last truck. So certainly I respect their opinion on that. I have no issues with that, but I just want to give you the track record. We've had this demo truck for 2.5 weeks. We've got 18 drivers still written. It's all been positive feedback for the most part.
What is the warranty on that unit?
The base warranty is the same as the Allison transmission, so it's 3 years unlimited mileage. And then the extended warranty that we've included in your package brings that up to 7 years unlimited mileage, just like the Allison.
And does that include the clutches?
And the clutch.
It includes the clutch?
Yes, yes, that's one of the reasons why it is, I think, $2,500, $2,534 more for the warranty for the DT12, because there are 2 components that is being warranted.
Can you touch on the manual transmissions that you went over with me the other day?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought.
That's what, no, I'm glad you did what you just did, but I want you to go over the manual transmissions too. With
So
it.
what manual transmissions are available?
Yes.
So with the Detroit DD13 that we put in the plow truck, you can get an 8LL transmission, which is a 10-speed with a low, which is popular with the municipalities. You can do a straight 10-speed, a 13, or an 18-speed transmission.
But you touched on that 8LL, that we'd have to reduce the horsepower of that tandem.
The horsepower, actually, it's a torque issue. So the torque, the 8LL is only rated to 1650 torque. So therefore, it's 470 horse, 1650 torque is the most horsepower and torque we can put with the 8LL transmission, which wasn't a problem years ago, but in the last 7, 8 years, engines are now 525 horse, 1850 torque. So they've gone past the 8LL's capability.
Do you recommend the tandem having 525 horse? I mean,
This is what I order in 95% of all trucks.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Because they upgrade from 470 horse to 1650. When you have a transmission that can take that, you're literally talking about $700. And on the back end, when you go get rid of a truck in 7 to 10 years, you'll get certainly all that and more of that.
And how does it affect fuel economy?
We do not engineer these for fuel economy. I can, but the guys wouldn't be very happy plowing if I built these for fuel economy.
But that extra 100 horsepower?
I am not an engineer. I don't think it would really make a whole lot of difference. One way or the other. I think driver habits, idling, the plow routes would all come into play higher than that 100 horsepower, with all things equal, same gear ratio, on same weight, all that. Good question.
I honestly don't know.
I'm not a truck driver, so this is where I want to get out of the way and let the people that know what they're doing.
I was all gung ho
Make
for the Allison.
recommendation.
I was all gung ho for the Allison, but if you can't give us, it may be 2 years, it may be 3 years, and I'm not blaming you, I'm just
No,
saying,
the communication we received in June was that they're gonna be available in January, and that didn't happen, so I'm not sure what their situation will be.
The 8LLs would be great for plowing, but we're not seeing young drivers that have that skill.
No, we can't have a fully manual truck. That's just,
You're talking
as
about
sad as it is to say that.
You're talking about a truck with a clutch?
yes.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but
The 8LL, the 10-speed, the 13, and the 18 that are available, they're fully manual transmissions, and we don't find drivers
they got
that.
that funny pedal on the left.
That's right.
As sad as it is nowadays, we can't.
The Allison is out of it. That seems crazy what Jeff is saying, that we can get in international, and it's $1,000 more than the Western Star, which should be $20,000 less.
But it's a year it's a year older too. So that's a 25, that, the international, that the HP Fairfield would be a 25, where we're looking at a, what is it, 26 or 27 for the, so.
All right, so let's sugar off our options. What do
They're
we,
saying, didn't he say the international would cost $1,000 more than the Western Star?
Yeah, but there was, yes, and then there was, but if you add in a $10,000 difference for the extended 7-year warranty, so that's why it went from 272 to 282.
But that's only $1,000 more.
Then what?
Than what the Western Star was
If my math was correct, and Sandy maybe have it, but it was, the Western Star was adding the $5,580 increase, it would bring the truck to $176,510.
Correct, with the extended warranty.
Right, with the 7-year extended, and there was something else too, another warranty that we had talked about, that it covered something else. Remember?
With the DT12, you have two warranties, it's the clutching and the transmission.
Yeah, it was on the old one, I have it here.
so that's, then that 176,510, that's for cab and chassis.
Right, and then 105, and again, this was, the old package number was 105,350, and I'm not sure if that goes up in time, with time or not, for Viking, for the plow package.
So if we were to go order a truck today, either International or Freightliner, we could do that for approximately 282,000 with a 7-year warranty, and if we did that, when would we see a truck?
That's what we'd have to get that information, if it's coming from a different vendor than Sandy's, from Charlie Boy's.
And our options with you, Sandy, are what?
We could build this within the next 7 months, our chassis. The challenge is whatever the arrangement is with Viking, but what I'm seeing is that they could be up to a year.
For you to get the truck, it could be up to a year.
No.
No, 7
I will
months.
have the truck by July, for sure.
With the DT12 though.
That's correct. And then so right now, I keep a running tab. We have 5 trucks at Viking and Wilson right now. I have 14 trucks sitting on my lot in Milton, just waiting for them to call for the next truck to go down there. So they have been a backlog, and we've had a good dozen trucks just sitting there waiting to go to Viking as soon as they get freed up. And their window went from 4 to 5 months, and that keeps getting extended out because they are the only local Vermont installer. Certainly it's a little easier if you're in southern Vermont from here south, but from here north, people do enjoy going to Viking and Wilson for parts for access. That's the big push. So they have certainly more business, and they can handle them. They're doing the best they can.
Do you deal, you obviously do you deal with other Western Star distributors throughout the country? I mean, could there be another Western Star tandem axle with Allison transmission sitting on somebody's lot out there? Is that?
If I was a betting man, no.
Really?
I mean, remember, I'm ordering trucks right now that are going to be built in April, May, and June. We're talking about 8 months out, and we started ordering our trucks in September for next year. For example, the Freightliners will be sold out sooner because we don't have as many Freightliner slots as we do Western Star, but these Western Star slots could be sold out by January. So if you put your decision off, for example, and this may not be the case, but if things are busy and people jump on the bandwagon, if you called me in February, we could be sold out for this year, and then we have to be talking about waiting until September for me to even price trucks for 2026. So that's kind of how this has gone. So essentially those allocations, those hundreds of trucks that we can order, are sold, filled, and ordered ahead of time, and all their dealers are in that same boat. So nobody has essentially like a stock truck sitting somewhere. It has changed since COVID. Everything's been allocated. So many trucks, and unfortunately now it's so many Allison transmissions.
Worst case scenario is 2 to 2.5 years for a truck. Will we be mission capable with the equipment we have for 2 to 2.5 years?
That's a difficult one to answer.
Yeah,
because,
anything could happen.
you know, anything catastrophic happened, but we have a 2013 tandem that we still have in service right now. That was the next tandem that would be, once we get the new one, then that would be on the queue.
Oh,
That's the truck.
To order a new one and to replace that one. But we've kind of made a practice to keep those. Having 3 tandems and 2 single or 2 1-tons is a better option for, I think, than having those single axles, which they're not worth anything when you go to sell them, and there's nothing that the tandem can't do that the single axle can, or vice versa. So I'd rather have a tandem that can hold more than have a single axle that we're stuck with whatever its vehicle rating is, or load rating. I don't know, I still think that, if it's Allison transmission that someone's looking at, then I could call over to HP Fairfield to see what that timeline is. And I don't, Jeff, do they have anything sitting in a lot, or is this something they have to build, or what?
No, they're 90 days. You pay HP for convenience because they'll turnkey them in 90 days. So their trucks are essentially $20,000 more than they should be.
So when you say turnkey 90 days, Jeff, does that mean with the plow package?
Correct. They use Everest. They have good gear. I've talked to guys throughout the state that have their trucks. They said they're good trucks. You know, I mean, in this case, you just get an older truck that costs more. So it really, you know, I mean, really our oldest tandem isn't set to even be replaced for several years. So time isn't really the issue here. You know, I think we can, you know, take our time to get what we want and not have to rush anything.
But if we lose the 2013 tandem, then we're down to 1 tandem.
we have 2 going right now.
Right.
And one of them we just put a lot of money and work into.
That's-
So that's up to snuff at the moment.
I believe that my gut feeling would be, unless there's a catastrophic failure of an engine or transmission or something like that, that the 2013, as long as Evan's working on the bed chain right now to get that, it's all fabrication, to get it fully operational, and will it last 2.5 years? I don't see why it won't. There's, besides some crazy thing that happens to it.
Can't have that many hours on it, does it?
No, none of them have really a lot of, they have more idle time on them than they have actual miles on them. So hours far exceed miles in most cases.
I wasn't at the board at the time when you guys voted on getting the Western Star, but I remember I was at a meeting or something. Why did you guys choose that one over the International?
Well, originally they chose the Freightliner over the International for better visibility and comfort.
Yeah.
And then when the build slots, there was no more build slots, that's when Sandy let us know that we could order the Western Star. So that's why the Western Star is the most expensive, I think, out of all of the 2.
So they wanted the Freightliner to start with. That was the truck that the guys wanted. All right, what are the build slots on that now then?
I don't know.
Currently, right now, are in that same time frame.
As the Western
As the
Star.
Western Star?
Correct.
So if that's what the guys wanted, would we be better off thinking about ordering the truck that they wanted then?
They wanted the Western Star.
They wanted the Freightliner, Mike
No,
just said.
that's what we were gonna go with.
Originally, they wanted because of cost. If they could have their choice, they're gonna take probably the Western Star.
Okay.
But the Freightliner is the one that they chose versus the International.
Okay. So it was Western Star, Freightliner, then the International.
Yes.
So we could have either truck this year, July, August, something like that. But we're gonna wait a year either way before it's plow capable.
Yeah, I'm not sure what your arrangement is with Viking, with your body order, but.
That would be your,
But what I'm seeing in my yard.
because you deal with them every day,
It's gonna be a
so.
while. Yeah, I keep a running tab. update our inventory every 4 weeks of what's here, what's on the ground, what's coming in from the factory. And they're doing the best job they can by trying to get these trucks through. We get them there as soon as they ask for them, but they've got a big workload.
Did we use ARPA money for this truck?
This was not ARPA, the Chevy was. And what, hey, Jeff, what was we've had the Chevy for a while. What's the build, or what's the plow frame, time frame
That's
for that?
March.
What's that?
That'll be a March build.
So
Viking is when your truck is delivered and you have it in hand, you're looking at approximately a year.
So if anything holds up the delivery of the trucks, just pushes that timeline
Back
too.
even further.
And
But
it's not
none
like
of that
we,
plow money was ARPA money, so we wouldn't get into trouble that it wasn't spent in the correct time.
correct.
Okay.
Well, yes, the one for the 6,500 was, but not for those
Not-
tandem.
Right, because this is the one that would be a year out.
Sandy, what kind of pull do you have to get an Allison transmission in that Western Star?
That was maybe the mayor of Indianapolis, Indiana, and might have some pull, but, yeah, they're just, it's disappointing. Actually, quite fortunate, we have our DT12, but, yeah, short of, switching to a single axle truck, the Allison does not look like it's available.
Just a minute, Roy. Roy Newton. Just a minute, Roy. Is there anything else from the board before we talk to Roy?
No, not at the moment, I guess.
Go ahead,
I've
Roy.
driven those DTs in a road tractor, and they work really well. I know you said you drove them in a bus and didn't like them.
Nobody liked them, not just me.
That wouldn't have been the DT12.
No, it was a different, but it was still the automatic manual transmission.
Was there a clutch pedal?
No. It was an automatic, what do you call it? Automatic manual
Automated manual.
automated manual.
Yes, and Volvo has an I shift, Mack has an M shift, and then there's an Eaton auto shift. And those do not compare to the Detroit with a Detroit engine. If you drove a Cascadia, then you drove a DT12 highway version. So
Right.
the vocational acts just the same, but has capability to work in harsh conditions, heavy loads.
Has more reverse gears, I think.
Correct. And it's built, and for plow trucks alone, not even a construction dump, there's 20 specific codes that I have to order for a plow truck for that performance, but that is the same transmission.
Go ahead, Roy.
Question, is there any chance that there's ability to contract out some of the plowing?
That's a separate conversation, and I'm not sure we're prepared to get into that right now.
Just to get you by, I mean, for this coming year.
Well, at this point, we have all the equipment we need. We're looking for a future to replace equipment as it wears out.
Hey, Jeff,
Yes, sir.
what would your decision be here? And why?
I mean, I guess I've talked to dudes throughout the state that have gone and driven the truck as well. Some old school, some younger guys. I think the D12 is, like Evan put it, the mechanic, it's going to take getting used to. It's something new. I'm with Dick on this. I'm not a truck driver, and so I can only kind of say what I've heard from the other guys, and everybody seems to be into it. It's the Western Star we know is a good truck. It has good resale value. It's not brand new. We're not really guinea pigging it, so to speak. So it's for nothing's getting cheaper either. So right now you're looking at a cost for a better truck than what's offered from HP. I would go with it.
You go with what, HP?
No, I would go with, the Western Star from Sandy.
The truck that we
No.
have ordered right now, and just accept that we're gonna wait a year before it's plow capable.
Yeah, I mean, really it doesn't, summertime, I wouldn't beat on it anyway.
You're talking with the D12 transmission, Jeff?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just wanted to be clear. I'm good.
I don't know if I'm good or not, but,
Well, I'm done asking questions, let's put it that
no,
way.
that's fine, that's fine, that's fine.
I think we have a handle on the options now.
I think Sandy wants to speak again.
Go ahead,
I just
Sandy.
want to let you know, I mean, there is no time critical right now, we have some time. Your build slot would be for second quarter build anyhow. I don't have to have those in today, so certainly you need a couple of weeks to hammer out. Certainly up to you, but it's nothing that I'm saying you need to decide on tonight to affect an order if you chose to go with the DT12. It's certainly up to you guys. Just from a little historical point, I've been in the truck business, worked for Clark, sold internationals for many years, and have been Charlie Boys for 12 years now. It's interesting, some 25 years ago, we had the same discussion when we went from manual transmissions to Allison transmissions. And I find the conversation very similar. Just for point of reference, not saying it's right or wrong, but it's very similar. Thank you.
So I think what we need to do is, we need to do a little more homework, figure out exactly what our options are, and then on the December 9th meeting, we'll make a decision. But we need to come up with some comprehensive way to make sure the board understands what the options are. So option one would be a Western Star with, for example, a Western Star with an Allison transmission, and the timeline is
Unknown.
24 months,
It's unknown.
36 months, or whatever.
Could be.
We need the reality. And then option B is a Western Star with a D12 transmission, and the timeline is to be operational ready 18 months, or whatever it is. And we need to put that on a piece of paper, and we all need to look at it, and then we need to make a decision with the input from our town manager and our highway foreman, and make a decision. Does that sound reasonable, Sandy?
I think that's a good plan.
That's the only thing we can do. Right now, all we know is we have a lot of questions and we don't have answers, so we need to figure out what the options are.
I said this from the get-go, but I want you guys to absolutely feel comfortable about your decision. And
Yeah.
so take your
One-
time, we're okay.
Is
So,
there a gear ratio change between those two transmissions?
Yes. So in the Allison transmission, for example, we run either a 456 or a 489 gear ratio, depending on the truck, the plow route, and conditions. Either one of those would work. And with the DT12, again, it's a manual transmission, so we're actually in a different gear ratio. Normally a 391 gear ratio is what we would probably use, 373, 391, depending on your conditions.
And whichever we decided would be available.
Yes.
So we keep it a 55-mile-an-hour truck, is that?
No. So the power band, not to get into engine technology, but the power band with these new engines is between 1,200 and 1,600 RPMs. So they want them to lug down, they want them to work hard. It's healthier for the emissions to keep, because we don't like them to idle, but they also like them to work under load, which they often do if you're hauling product in the summer or pushing snow in the wintertime, they work. So we engineer that gear ratio, because you guys are plowing from 15 to 25 miles an hour for the most part. So we want you to be in that 1,200 to 1,600 power band. So with if you switch that DT12 into manual mode, it's an education, and I do that with drivers and let them understand where they should be RPM wise. Unlike years ago, the higher, the louder the truck was, must be the more powerful it was, but that's not the case anymore.
Great, thank you.
I have some more questions, but I can get them answered by Bob or Mark, I think. So we're gonna move on.
I just got one more thing for Sandy. If we were ordered this truck with you 2 weeks from now, with an Allison transmission, when would be the drop dead date
I
that
can't
you,
even order it with an Allison.
you can't?
My order got like Allison Big X there, not available.
They won't let you do that.
They're not
Okay,
available.
so we have to, if we, okay. That was kind of my,
So our timeline has been the last few years, and I'm guessing it'll be similar next year, is come August, I start to get pricing, I get updates, I get availability. Probably in August, we'll find out whether we have Allison's or not.
So you can't even give us an answer until nine or 10 months from now.
Because I'm not available to order for 2026.
You can't even ask the question yet.
August of next year,
So you can't even ask the question yet.
correct.
Okay.
But one can assume that gonna cost more if it's longer we go, farther we
Yeah, our
go.
model year has generally been, increasing, we're $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 per year just for the model year increase. We also took a hit on tires. Tires are all of a sudden now a big issue, like they were when COVID kicked in 4 or 5 years ago. So yes, it's.
All right, so we're gonna move on, and I'm gonna tap one of you two guys to get with Mike to figure out.
Absolutely.
Put a sheet together of what our options are, and then we can educate the board and make some decisions. And I'm gonna talk to one of the two of you about how you drive one of those trucks, but I don't wanna get into that right now.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
very
for
much
coming
for
down.
your
thanks for
time.
coming down, Zay.
I appreciate your time. We're gonna move on to Police Department update.
I didn't realize there was that many transmissions. Although I do know Allison's, those are good transmissions.
Well, I've learned that I have a lot to learn.
All right, everybody get a copy of my report, correct? Yep. So let's kind of go through this. On service calls, I mean, we were up, I don't know, let's see, 27 more calls from September. I think the biggest ones were the directives. We had more directed patrols, and the other big jump was mental health. We had 27 issues going on. Which takes, you figure, 2 hours a call, so almost 55, 60 hours of dealing with that, which is very time consuming. As I go through these, any questions on the service calls?
Directed patrol is,
Those are combinations, those are either enforcement of, traffic, or an area that they're just patrolling and then just making a case out of, like people will call and say, hey, can you go, like, when they go through your business, that's a directed patrol,
gotcha.
specific to the area. All right, any other questions on those? All right, let's move on to the rest. We actually only had 4 arrests in October, which I can't figure out if we were doing police work or what we were doing. Not that you use police work to enumerate the number of arrests, but, I mean, I'm looking at the times and the things that I pointed out. We did obviously a lot more, we still got the cases are there. There's still probably, I know I have at least 5 pending cases that could be chargeable. Officers may have a couple, so some of these take longer to build a case, so they won't actually show up on the month that you started the calls on. So that's, I know that's part of it. We did a lot of other things, a lot of community outreach in October than we normally would do. Traffic violations went up a little bit. That will probably go down as we start getting snow. I know I've been hitting Route 30 pretty hard because they are flying down there. There's 2 spots that we have up there now, on the 40 and the 35. Any questions on those things? Calls of service at a university, we had 3 in October. That's about average. Right now we're on break, so we shouldn't get too much of that. As you go toward the backup, on the last page before we get into the narratives, we had 6 backups. We did 3 in Fairhaven, 1 in Hubbardton VSP, and then 2 in Colden VSP. Actually, one of them may have been the sheriff's department. So October, so let's talk about what we did. So we talked about the mental health. I mean, that's a high for us, 27 calls compared to 8 in September. We were just dealing with 3 people continually, like 3 or 4 times a week. It's very frustrating. We did use the embedded mental health worker that's assigned to the, actually assigned for the county, but they work out of the barracks in Rutland. Nicole, she's very helpful. She came over a number of times. Very limited in what you can do, and I think it's frustrating for families to understand in mental health there's no easy answer. You can't just remove them from the house and just drag them to the hospital. They have to display some seriously threatening or harmful behavior to you, to themselves or to other people before you can make that decision. So, and I think sometimes families get a little frustrated with the system, but that's just the way we have in this state. It doesn't make it easier for us. And they don't have the beds, the residential programs that they used to have. Noise complaints picked up a little bit. I know that Justin and Nad were busy. We talked about in here about in Glenbrook. They actually had an arrest out of that noise in the nighttime, which is something that we don't usually enforce. We've written up already civilly a couple of times. So you get to the point where you get into those civil violations, it's time to now issue them a citation with parent court for that. Property checks, we talked about the traffic, community events, we did the trunk or treat, public safety day, the elementary school. We also did the conservation camp. They had one for Halloween too. Also, I know it's November, but we do have the turkey trot coming up this Thursday. We met with Andy today. We talked about what the route. They got 70+ people already registered. This is going to be big. It's going to go over here. I had it in Woodstock when I was over there for 10 years, so it's just going to keep growing. The only thing is I was talking with Andy about it, is it's going to put more demand on the volunteers, us, and obviously traffic control is always the biggest issues. When you have like you get 200, 300 people, it's a lot of people. Traffic should never be an issue on that day in the morning. Number one, there's no dump, which is a huge plus. I don't have to deal with that. And people normally in the mornings either hunting or there's just really not much traffic. So I think it's a good time to do that, but I think it's got a lot of potential. Just from my own experience, I think it's going to grow. We also got ready we did a huge delivery. We have a person that comes in here. She's a Castle resident that gets hundreds of pounds of toys. So we kind of put them in age categories, bag them up, and then the school throughout the district, they give them to kids. They're not at this point, but they're getting them set up for presents and stuff for Christmas. So we do that. Questions, comments?
So you're all good with traffic control for the turkey trot?
Yeah, I'll
Everything's all
have,
set?
Iowa won't be in state, so I got Justin's gonna work that day with Ed, who's normally on, and we have 2 officers, and then we have fire truck, and then we're gonna use the side-by-side as a trailer, the new side-by-side that was just bought. We're gonna use that as a trail for the EMTs or the injuries or whatever, because the one thing about this particular type of race, people walk it, all ages, all different fitness backgrounds. Some people are going to want to get through it and kind of create their own record for their own time. Other people just want to do it as exercise before they indulge in a high-carb meal in the afternoon. Yeah.
Does the race start at the college and end at the college?
No.
No.
Actually, it starts down by the intersection of Main Street and South Street. It'll end just about halfway between the intersection to the bank, somewhere around there.
You're not
So basically, it starts at 8. We're thinking maybe an hour and a half max. could be 2 hours max, where people are gonna just wanna, you know, once they, it's not gonna be a huge ceremony where they are gonna get awards and stuff like that, but it will be as they finish right in.
Yeah,
You know,
we
we
assume
talked
people
about-
want to get to their
Yeah,
festivities.
yeah.
They'll be out of there by 9:30, 10 o'clock.
And that's a good time, 2 hours. If you can keep it to 2 hours, that's perfect, because people, you know, they wanna get home and stuff like that. I'll be in Dallas, Texas at the Thanksgiving game, so if I'm on camera, I'll wave. I had to throw that out.
Anything else?
And I'm not a Dallas fan either.
Anything else for the chief? Okay, thank you, Pete. We're gonna move on.
Appreciate it.
Funny, what is this? But
No, I'll talk to you tomorrow. About your radar cart, you see that?
Now we're gonna discuss the sale of the fire trucks, so. You come up to the podium and tell us who you are, Chris?
I'm Chris Freda. Do you want an overview of what I've done or what is happening?
Yeah, give us the short version, Chris.
So 2 weeks ago, I took pictures, I got 100 pictures of the ladder truck, put a feeler on Facebook. There's a Maxim Collectors Group, everyone knows it's the last, I don't know if you guys know, it's the last Maxim ladder truck in service. Maxim went out of business, I think, in 1989. So there's no other Maxim ladder trucks in service. So we did think that there was some sort of a collector value to it, which I'll get to in a minute, what my ideas are now with the value. So we had an idea of collector value to it, doing the last Maxim in service, the condition of it, been refurbished, garage kept, all that. So I put it on the Facebook group, Maxim Collectors. There's like 4,000 members in this group. And there was 150 likes and like 75 comments of interest. Tag me, tag me, tag me, tag me, when it's up. So that was last week I put it up, or 2 weeks ago, on Thursday I put it up there, a week before we were supposed to put it up. Thursday I listed it for a 10-day auction, Thursday ending next Sunday. That way it gets 2 weekends of viewings as far as an auction. The best thing to do is list it at night, list it on Thursday for 10 days, 2 weekends of viewings, and then just basically put it out there everywhere, which is what I did. There's over 900 views on it, and I think 19 watchers. I've gotten probably 5 messages saying we outrageously priced it. It's too high. No one's ever gonna pay the price. We don't know till Sunday. It was listed at $9,999 to start, 10 grand. So basically what I'm looking for is if this doesn't sell at that price, what is my next, what can I do? Because winter's coming, I've also been tasked with Engine 5 and the van to sell that. My goal was to put each one up on a Thursday for 10 days, and then hopefully sell them all. But the one thing is I don't want to waste, I'm doing this as a volunteer job also, I'm not getting paid for it, I'm not trying to show off or anything. But I don't want to waste my time, your guys' time, so I was hoping to get a concrete saying, basically, if this doesn't sell 10 grand, I do this. And then same with 5 in the van.
Those same fellows that told you it was way overpriced, did they give you a ballpark figure what they think is?
So, yes, they said, one guy immediately messaged me and he said probably more in the range of 5 to 6, I believe he said, possibly 7. So, as you know, winter's coming, we don't have room for it. I originally wanted to do the first time, sell it for, list it for a decent price, lower, and just let it go so we wouldn't waste too much time on it. But I think if it doesn't sell this time, this is our one last shot to do it. And I do think we upset the community a little bit, because they expected the Maxim community, because they expected it to be a no reserve auction. And then I've got all this feedback, once I posted it to the messaging on eBay and Facebook, probably about 5 people total got back to me and said you're outrageous, yada, yada, yada. I've informed them that I've just been instructed to sell a truck. I'm going by your guys' wishes, and basically I have to go by what you guys wish, is what I've told them.
But the auction isn't over yet.
The auction's not over yet, but what I want is if it doesn't go Sunday, because we're going, next Sunday is already December 4th or whatever it is, December 3rd. So then we have to put it up for another 7 days or whatever, 10 days, whatever it is. So we're in the middle of December right there. So I wanted to see if it doesn't sell for the 10 grand, I wanna know what I can do, so that Sunday, next Sunday night, I can do it without wasting any time in between it.
Like lower the price is what he means.
Yeah.
How-
So what do you mean by a no reserve auction? I'm not familiar with eBay or
So-
anything, so.
Right now, it's $9,900. $9,900 is the lowest price somebody can bid on it. It's no
Okay.
reserve. So basically, if somebody bid $999.99, they bought it. So we can go, basically, if you put a reserve on it of, let's say, just fictitiously saying 50 grand. Somebody bid on for $9,999 and the reserve is 50 grand, you wouldn't win it $9,999 because there's a reserve on it. And you would hold the truck. We would still have rights to the truck for a reserve price. But we started at $99,999 because that was the lowest price we were willing to accept at that time through what Mike's instructions would have made. So if we drop it to $5,000, no reserve, if somebody bid $5,000 on it, and they're the only bidder, they win it, fair and square.
Well, the bottom line is we want to do two things. We want to get what we can out of it, and we want to get rid of it. And probably in that order? Does that sound right, guys?
Yeah, I would think if it reaches the end of the auction, of course, we don't want to show our cards, Roy might be bidding on it.
Well, that's why,
If we reach the end of it, list it again with a $5,000 minimum.
and I've also put in there, in the listing, plus going back to them, this is, as I'm aware from the town, this is the only time that they will be listing it. So people are thinking it's the only time they can bid on it. Is this an auction right now? I haven't told them anything about me listing it at a lower price, to give them a chance to say, oh, let's wait for bidding on lower then. So I have told them this is the only chance, because that's all I know is about, I don't have any chance to list it, so that's all I know about. So, if I guess.
This is
what
on
I'm asking
eBay or
for-
Marketplace?
eBay. Worldwide.
Did you list
So-
it on Marketplace?
I've only done eBay. I've done Mike's instructions on what to do. I met with him a couple of times, make sure pricing and everything was good, and making sure I wasn't gonna upset.
I think what happened is we heard that there was this Maxim group, there was people interested in there, and I think Heath he just walked in, that there was people interested in this truck could go sell as, maybe as high as $30,000. So I think there was maybe some, yeah, it's like, well, if you don't put a reserve on, if you don't put a reserve on it and you just sell it, and then someone says $3,000 and there's no reserve, they want it for $3,000.
Right.
Versus putting a reserve on it and then saying, we hope for 10, Chris, the auction run out, we relist it with a reserve of 5, and we see if we get more than 5. But it won't sell for less than 5.
So in short, basically, I'm asking for for you to give me powers to sell this truck.
Why wouldn't you list it on Marketplace?
I wanted to do a,
You know, you're gonna,
worldwide audience. I saw the last one, the 53, I think we had last time, and a worldwide, a guy that from New York bought it, and he has like 6,000 fire trucks in a warehouse in New York, huge warehouse, like millions of square foot.
is this only going out to people in the Maxim group?
No. So I paid.
I'm just thinking if, you know, you list it on Marketplace for free.
I'm on Marketplace right now, and there's like 2 ladder trucks on it within 250 miles, and they're $8,000. It doesn't appear that there's a huge market for them.
And that's the thing is, I mean, not to interrupt you guys, there's a very limited market, and I think we can gather that, because I had a guy message me this morning from North Carolina and said, you're taking offers. And he's from North Carolina, so he buys 25 trucks a year, and he won't pay 10, he thinks it's outrageous too. So,
Well, why don't we see what happens? The auction's not over, maybe somebody will pay 10.
no, I know. I
And,
just didn't want to waste time for winter time. with
Relist
winter- And basically, I'm
with a
saying if it doesn't sell,
$5,000.
Can we do something different?
I think that we should authorize Chris to do what he thinks is right. Once this auction's over, if you don't get any bites at 10, do what you think is right. And at this point in time, we've had how many years? 20 years of service out of that truck at
12
least?
years.
15 years. We paid $7,500 for the truck, right? So it doesn't owe us anything.
I mean, if you sell for 5, you have $2,500 worth of use for it for 12 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, obviously,
I just think it's sitting around is gonna do more harm than good to it.
I agree.
Yeah, we don't need it sitting somewhere.
That's why I'm prepared to tell,
Go down the line too.
that's why I'm prepared to tell Mr. Freda if he can't sell it for 10, to do what he can. Now, if anyone else has got any other thoughts,
Just so you guys are aware, it costs $80 to list it every time. I don't know if there's a selling fee to it. I know it's $80 every time we put it up there. Which they took out of my account, it's not a big deal. So once I get payment or whatever, I'm sending up those.
yeah,
I'll give you a list of all the expenses for like listings, but I'm not charging any commission or anything on doing this.
we appreciate that, Chris.
No, I just physically can't. Until you remember. Okay, good, thank you.
And the other two trucks?
The other two trucks, what my plan is doing Thursdays, the maximum of the 10 days. So this, I have to take pictures tomorrow and Wednesday, it's on my list to come out, take pictures, hopefully the weather's okay. Write a description up, get it done, and list that. So we're pushing again. I've seen the engine 5, it's 88, Mike, did we say? With a 88 chassis, 78 pump on it. 88 chassis with 78 pump, right, Pete? So, we're what?
87,
15,000
87, 88.
So I've,
78.
in all honesty, I would rather do it one time and get gone. I looked online, I've seen anywhere from values of 4,000 to 7,000, I'd say. It's low mileage, it's, the 80s genre of the trucks, maybe have a little pull to it. What's your guys' pleasure on that?
I'm not emotionally attached to that truck or a value. I think, you do what you think is right, get what you can out of it, and get rid of it, is my opinion.
Here we go.
Because we don't want them sitting around out in the
No,
back
I
of the parking lot.
I know, I just
getting
don't want to
snow
get $2,000 and then have them come back and say, we could have got $4,500, do something different.
You wouldn't hear that from me,
Well,
okay?
that's why I'm here to make sure that we're on the board game here. Everything's level-headed.
I appreciate your efforts, and at
Yep.
this point in time, I'd just soon stay out of your way.
The van.
Same thing with the van.
Here we are. All right.
The only other question I have is, are we in compliance with the town's policy of disposing of public property?
Technically, no. Because it's not a police vehicle. So anybody can buy a fire truck, I guess.
Well, if somebody in town wants to buy the fire truck, they're more than welcome to.
Well, what I was gonna do is, I talked to Chris last week, and I said that we could put on the ad as being sold locally. So we can put it on our town website, we can put it in the paper, and list it on another, 2 papers, and it meets the criteria for 3 places, and just say it's being sold locally, and, go that route. But Chris would have to post it on there, a statement saying this is also being sold locally, auction can end at any time.
Well, like I said, if there is a bid at the end of at the end of Sunday, that is a binding contract to sell the truck. So, which I don't think anybody would, if it sells for $10,000 on Sunday, I think we're really happy.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna probably go back unless somebody offers more.
No, this will be for the new posts.
That's a binding contract. Well, for the new one, I can add, if that could be listed, and for the other 2 trucks, I can on there, these will be advertised locally.
Coordinate with Mike and make sure we're in compliance with town policy. If you don't have to do anything except if Mike can take care of advertising it and
Like
the
I
other
said,
3.
I'll handle all the listings and the changes on the post and say it's done locally, and I'll just tell Mike when they're listed, and he can, I guess, do what he has to do.
Yeah, and because I want to be in compliance with town policy, that's all.
Yeah.
Could we just advertise it with a link to the eBay? Would that be acceptable?
It says listed in 3 places.
Well, that's what I mean. Could you list it like on the town website as this is for sale, follow this link to purchase it? And then put the eBay link in there?
That'd be one place, I guess,
And then you could put it,
papers.
yeah, I mean, just,
Front porch forum, something.
Roy?
The thing is, I won't know
I'm ready.
the link. I mean, if you, right now, it's Sunday, so we're already on Monday, Tuesday, so it's not gonna make the paper this listing. So, I won't know the listing item number until I list, I won't know the URL until Sunday night that we list it. So there's not a month, there's that,
For the new one.
the new paper, and it's only gonna be up for 10, the paper, I don't know if the timing is gonna jive.
do the town website, front porch forum.
Facebook Marketplace, there's 3 places.
Marketplace. The town has a Facebook page.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah, you could do Facebook,
So,
Yeah,
Like I said, I can message you the links or whatever you're
I
gonna do.
think that would be probably the best way to do it.
Yep.
So my opinion, and if the board agrees with this, is get what you can and take care of it.
Right.
Do we all agree with that?
We'll take care of it.
So you're authorizing, I just want to make sure for the minutes, that the select board's authorizing the sale of those 3 vehicles.
Let's have a motion.
Make a motion that we authorize Chris Freda to sell the unused ladder truck, the unused van, and engine 5 to the highest bidder.
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Get it done, Chris. Thank you.
Guys.
We appreciate your efforts, Chris. I
Yeah,
really
thanks,
do.
Chris.
Now, let's move on to the tax sale. This is, all you, Mr. Town Manager.
So what you were given was the properties that are in the most arrears. They all meet the town's tax sale policy. There's more than this, but there's some are smaller, smaller amounts at this time. And the attorney, when we had to get this vetted through the attorney, this is what they could handle right now to get this thing moving. So in front of you is a list of the properties that would go up for tax sale. And we lost. I didn't get the power cord from you, Heath. Little oversight on that one.
Yeah, but you could do one.
Anyway, so the select board, if you agree, we'll get this stuff moving for a tax sale to be held on January 21st, 2025 at 10 a.m. This has to get posted out. There's a whole process to post this. The laws are changing again on tax sale, the criteria. I got a webinar on like the 3rd or 4th of December to watch on the new laws, but this falls under current laws, and this would, a lot of times tax sales, I think we've only had 1 or maybe 2 properties in the last 6 years that actually went to tax sale. Because once this gets out there and people have a chance to come in and do a payment plan with us, that typically solves most of the problems. But they usually, or they come in and just pay it. We've had one person that goes to tax sale every single time and comes in on the last day that it's available and pays it off in full, and pays that 10% interest on it. I don't know, it's their choice, I guess, but that's never gone to tax sale as far as like it being actual sold. It's a year. So anyway, that's the list, and I just wanted to make sure you're aware of it, and if you have any questions on.
I have 2 questions. What is other?
Where are we at, Mary?
Well, you go principal, interest, penalty, and other.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the other is.
Okay, and the other thing is, how many years in arrears do they have to be before it comes up for tax sale?
5 years, $500, I think is what the last one said.
I think I remember that, reading that the last time. Pretty sure that's accurate.
5 years for
5 years or $500.
But those others are quite a bit of money in some of them. Whatever other is.
I don't know, I apologize, I don't know what besides interest and penalties, what the other would be.
You could probably call Christine tomorrow and get an answer to that.
Yeah. Unless it's sewer.
I was gonna say, probably sewer or
'Cause
water.
506 looks like a sewer.
Quite likely that's sewer,
Yeah.
because that's the only other expense for a property.
Now, the town will be looking to recover. I'll verify it and I'll let everyone know, but
Need a motion at this point, or is this more of an FYI thing?
It doesn't really need a motion. I think that it wouldn't hurt to have it, that you guys are aware, and you're making a motion on what's going up for tax sale. Maybe it's as presented or something, I don't know.
Nobody? Okay.
Not really sure how to do it. I mean, would it be just those two properties?
No, it's,
Well, there's a total of 5
There's-
here.
yeah.
You could- The tax sale is presented by the town manager, and then if someone wants to see the list, they're more than welcome to go see the town manager and get it.
public, no, it's, taxes in arrears, public information, so it's no secret.
I'd authorize the town manager to proceed with the tax sale, to be held on January 21st, 2025 at 10 a.m.
As presented.
as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded to authorize the town manager to proceed with the tax sale. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Mowing Bid Awards. A little bit of sticker shock here.
I'm sorry, I was talking to Heath. Oh,
A little bit of sticker shock here, Mike.
uh-huh.
The price has gone up again.
It did by like $16,000 on.
Are these the only bids we had?
Yeah. And they typically, they've been the only bids since the state, the state stopped mowing, and we were using the state corrections crews. Since that point, these are the only two that have bid on them.
And these have been advertised in the right way and all that.
Yeah, they have them everywhere.
They're not happy with the service of these two guys?
Well, they've done a good job, both of them. They're responsive when we need something, but it just seemed, and I think a lot of the jump, if you look at it, was in the cleanup fees for the spring and fall cleanup fees.
It was too hard to follow for me, Mike, but neither one bid against each other, right?
Correct. So the first thing you're looking at the top of your packet or bid packet one, the company or the business was cutting it sweet. And then if you flip through, you'll see another one, that says bid packet
pages in.
2 at the top for white knight mowing.
Yep.
So those are the two bid, it tells you which, on the far left, the site, and then it runs across, right, left to right is cleanup fees, the mowing, the yearly total, and then I gave you the amount from the previous year, the previous contract, I mean, from 2022 to 2024.
Yep.
And then the difference at the bottom of the, it says difference over last year. So you can see that bid packet 1, the difference was $3,054.
Yep.
And that's a 1-year total.
Yep.
Are you looking to approve this tonight?
Typically, that's what I'm doing, unless you want me to do something different.
There has been some interest in someone taking over maintenance on Dewey. I don't have an answer on that at this point in time. I suppose we could always exclude mowing for this year and look at that to add it on next year.
Just to be aware, there's nothing, a timeline or time frame that if this isn't acted on right now, that, there's no timeline on it, because we just gotta get it before they start mowing, in the spring. I think,
Might be tomorrow.
I think
we should hold off until we can see what Mark has going with the Dewey Field thing.
I think we should also give the owner of Cutting It Sweet an opportunity to understand that he may or may not get the Dewey Field, which is 25% of this, or 20% of this bid. And what that would do to either to or for him, or what ramifications that may have. I think he deserves that opportunity. Because to hold him to the prices for the other things without Dewey Field may present a challenge that I think everyone gets what I mean.
Yep,
He may
I would
spend a
agree.
day out mowing, and
I would agree with that.
that might be a big part of his day.
Yep.
So,
Well, we could always leave the mowing alone alone and maybe add some other responsibilities at Dewey Field instead. Does that make sense?
No.
Is 2 weeks not enough time for you to find out?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, the cleanups are only, are $750 of it.
Let's put it off 2 weeks and I'll try really hard to have an answer.
Okay. So Mike, put this on the agenda for 2 weeks' time, and everyone keep these?
Would you guys like me to reach out to Cutting It Sweet and see if it would change if Dewey Field was removed from?
It wouldn't hurt to give him a heads up.
Okay.
Let's do that. I mean, let's be courteous and
Yep.
make sure that people know what's going on.
Absolutely.
And, what the ramifications would be, Rob, because, that may be a big part of the day.
Recording in progress.
Going for the town.
I know I talked to him yesterday, and I didn't really talk to him about that, but I think he said that if he was to lose the bid for the 2 years, he probably wouldn't bid ever again, because he would fill it with other stuff, and he wouldn't want to drop that other stuff off.
Right.
That's fair enough, too.
Well, I don't think we want to lose his services or alienate him in any way, just to
Correct.
understand that.
Yeah, if we take Dewey Field off, is he still interested in the rest of them?
Correct.
Yeah.
And what that would look like.
Yep. Not a problem.
All right, I'm gonna move on. Let's talk about a poplar tree on 556 Main Street. We've researched the deed now, Mike?
To keep this out.
Yeah, give me a second, I gotta make some notes, because Allison isn't on, obviously. So what I got was, move this to the next meeting. Rob's gonna reach out to the owner.
To Brian, yeah.
And is there anything else that was part of that?
That pretty much sums it up.
Okay.
And Mark's gonna try hard to get an answer on what the future of Dewey Field may or may not look like.
Yep.
Okay. Right. So, 556 Main Street. So, lots of going back and forth, talking to everybody that, that's alive or I could reach out to. Some things were folklore, I didn't want to deal with that, I wanted to deal with the facts. And, as of today, literally as of this afternoon, Mark Corsell came to my office and I provided you a copy of a deed, that was from 1787, I think.
1796.
Yeah, so that had meets and bounds in it, that was missing from the parcel viewer that the state had showing the boundaries for, town lands. So after talking with Mark, he went down and actually measured, and I had Jeff measured. The feet, what it said was 107 feet from the road, 107.58, I think is what it was. And they measured a couple different places. They measured to the tree, and they measured from some markers that they spoke with John Raylan, and he showed some marble markers he thought was the boundary. We didn't really know if they were or not. And then they found another one farther east, and they ran a string on it. And their determination, both what Mark Corsell had called me and texted me about, he said it was 110 and a half feet, and Jeff said the same thing. So if it's 107 feet, 0.58 from center line of the road, or that deed, which was in links and rods and had to be converted to feet, that the tree would be outside of the town lands as shown on the state's parcel viewer and by that deed. So that's what I know to be true.
Any questions on the board?
The tree is not on the town green.
According to the measurements that they made, the termination would be about 3 feet or so beyond the town's, by the boundaries that's shown on the parcel viewer and the distances that are shown on that deed. So you're looking at a document that was in cursive out of that book, of book 2, so it tells you anything, book 2 of all the, how old it is. And really hard to decipher, so Mark came in today and said, I have to have this translation right here, so he showed it to me. And
Where did Mark get that translation?
I asked him that, and he said, from my files. So that's what he
So
told me.
he's had to do work there before to where he had
Yeah.
to research it.
It did, and that's what
Town.
he had to make notes on converting the links and
Well, a rod is 16 and a half feet,
feet, yep,
and a link is 7.92 inches.
so. The conversion, on his chart, he wrote the conversions at the very bottom right. Those two numbers added together come up to 107.58, I think is what it is. So that's what I went by.
And does that come out to those marble markers?
The marble markers were at, Jeff's not on, those were beyond the 107 feet. I think that was one of the ones that come up to 110. And they used it, we had an overhead shot, they blew up, it's in your packet, of showing where the tree was located, where the parcel, where the boundaries were that the parcel map showed, because there's a layer in there.
Document here, right?
Correct. That's a layer out of the GIS mapping for the state. They show town greens, and that's where those lines come from on there.
But those lines aren't survey grade, correct? From
Well,
parcel viewer.
That's what, what I don't have is that where the parcel viewer got their information to create that.
The parcel viewer is inaccurate at times, like my in-laws' place is not even close to correct with the parcel viewer from the state.
So that's what I read. The older the deed, the less accurate it may be.
Correct.
So that's why, when Mark brought the deed in there, we went down, I had Jeff go down and measure it, and Mark went down, he texted me afterwards and said, I went down just to measure myself in the center of the road, and he got 110 feet, I think .58.
Your bottom line, in your opinion, is that this tree is not on town land.
Per that deed and per the measurements, I would say that's what I had to work with.
Your name, sir?
My name is Amy, my wife Whitney. And the property is actually on 445 Main Street.
Yeah, I knew this agenda was an error.
Yes,
This 445 Main Street?
445 Main Street.
What's on?
We've been on that property, owning that home for 33 years now. And my question is, you have us there on that particular measurement, but our question is, we've been told for more than 30 years, since we first moved here in 1992, that tree was on town property. Jeff Freeman, former town tree warden, who told us that. And that's why the town, over the years, for 33 years, has serviced that tree. You know, there's several times when they had to cut big branches off, when branches fell off, they came and cleaned it up. They regularly looked at it. The UBM Extension Forestry Program that comes down every few years to check on the tree, to measurement. They were here the summer of 2023 and looked at the tree and noticed the tree was probably on its last legs. And they measured it and all that, and they came up, by the way, with the highest one was 66 feet. And I think Jeff Davidson measured it at 50 feet. And also, on the UVM Extension Forestry Program, they have a website with historical trees in Vermont, of which this is one. It's also a historical tree. And since 1980, it's been listed on town property. They call it right of way. And that's where that map came from that was sent to you, that we sent to you. And that was sent to us by Gwen Kozlowski, who's with that program. So I guess our question is, why for we're talking 45 years now, that tree has been recognized as being on town property for the last 33 years. That's what we were told. Last year, when Scott Welch came by and told us that, we're going to take this tree down this season, of course it didn't happen, but they put a big orange, paint spot on it. There was also 2 years before that, when they were looking at the tree, there's a little red or orange tag on it, targeting that tree for coming down. So I guess my question is, once again, is, why over all those years, we're talking 33 or 45 years, that tree has been recognized on town land, treated that way by the town, and now this summer, as I think Mike, I do want to thank Mark and Mike for looking into these details. But once, and you did, you know, you had priced out what would it cost to take it down, I guess it was $5,000 or plus. And then the decision was made that, no, it's not on town land. So we just find that a little odd.
Yeah.
For these decades, being told the town owns the property, owns the land, serviced that tree over the years. But now.
Well, and if I could add too, in our discussion, even though it's over 107 feet from the poplar tree to the center line of Main Street, the height being 66 feet and discussion of if it would impact, if anything ever happened to that tree, a right of way, that tree would fall on the crosswalk, on the sidewalk. You know, there's no real specific sidewalk, but it would fall on the sidewalk. It also would hit power lines. Another part of this is, do we bring in Green Mountain Power to look at this? I do know they do take town trees that are impacting possible potential power line destruction. So I think looking at the bigger picture, number one, there is right-of-way dispute that it could affect the sidewalk or people on the sidewalk and even possibly go into the street. Number two is, if you look at this UVM extension report and you go through and look at the big trees that are listed around the state of Vermont, many are listed on private property. And if you want to access that tree, you need to get the permission of the property owner. The white poplar on our tree says public access. And in 1972, Jeff Freeman, the tree warden and a science professor at Castleton, was one of the founding members of this big tree program. So we respect that he obviously had a lot of knowledge about this poplar tree and was interested in trees around the state. So it's just curious to us that after 33 years, as Philip said, all of a sudden it's not town property. And we respect that there's a deed that seems to be hard to read from 1796. It's a long time ago. Also at that time, and I haven't seen the actual copy, we were told by Mr. Doran, who was a history teacher at the village school for years, sort of the town historian, because the front of our house, the front door does not face Main Street. It faces west. And he told us that that's because the town green was a big oval shape. Our house is one of the first wood frame houses in Castleton, built in 1804. So whether the poplar tree was there or not at that time, it's just interesting because the town was shaped differently then. And that's my point. So I think, you know, in all fairness, we'd like more discussion around this. I know Mark Purcell recommended another tree company that could possibly take it down. He felt that the $7,000 quote that I think Scott Welch got was way too high, and gave the recommendation of Thaddeus, I forget what his last name is. I don't know, did you ever hear from him with a quote?
It was sent to 5 different businesses, and he was one of them, because he gave me that information. I added it to the list.
So you did get a number or
No,
not?
there's a date coming up here
Yeah.
for them to get quotes back to us, or their quotes.
You know, unfortunately,
It was a 2-week
I wish
thing.
we could contact Jeff Freeman, because he might have some other records that we talked about that he might know of, but. So it's like a 1796 deed document versus the town really taking care of this tree for the last probably 50 years, even before we were there, if not longer.
And just to reiterate another part, even if it were on our property, if you look at that tree, and most people have, that tree, if it comes down towards Main Street, it's definitely gonna hit the sidewalk. There's a big tree right at the end of our driveway, right in the line of fire, one of the major limbs. So it's gonna come down. When it comes down, if it comes down towards Main Street, it's gonna hit the sidewalk, that tree, possibly the street wires. street lines, and I think it could even hit Main Street. So I don't know, I had heard before, even if a tree is on your property, if it's threatening town property, then the town takes it down. Or if that's not the case, if that tree on our property threatens town property, are we then responsible? If it's a sidewalk, there's also a sewer line right there as well, in the sidewalk, definitely in the line of fire. We've been told, people who do trees, that even if it didn't, hit Main Street, when a tree like that comes down, it can bounce, or big chunks of it can come flying off and go right into Main Street, or anything that's there. Not to mention, hopefully not, potential, pedestrians coming by there. So I don't know that part, but I've heard that if a tree on a private property is threatening town property, then the town takes that down.
I mean, and the other reality is we're having more storms than ever, and half the tree is dead. And it's pretty scary. I get nervous even walking with my grandchildren down my driveway. We've had limbs fall off over the years, and we couldn't even get in our driveway, and the town was always respectful of that and took care of it. And this was the first conversation in 33 years that it wasn't on town property, so.
I'm not
That's
sure
our
where
case.
Jeff would have come up with that. I mean, he doesn't have documented records of it.
Does who?
Jeff Freeman.
Well,
There's
we don't know
no,
how to get in touch with him.
there's no documented records of tree wardens.
That I couldn't answer.
And it's, the deed is prima facie evidence that kind of determines the lines. It appears the tree warden was in error.
Can I speak on that? This is how I get involved. Is after those bids were done, because I never asked that tree to be put out to bid, and I got it, and Scott Welch brought it to me, and I'm like, this is a lot of money for one, and two, I'm like, why are we taking that tree down? Because at that time, before this deed stuff come into play, the town, I was always told the deed read 100 feet through the town, so that's 50 foot each side of center, which would definitely put the tree outside of it. So that was my thinking at the time. I'm like, why are we taking down a tree that's far outside of our responsibility? And the former DPW director is the one that I think spoke to one of you, Whitney or Phil, and I'm like, why did you make that determination? Because it's what I believe is outside of the right of way, and or it depends on who you talk to. Ownership, town either owns it or there's a right of way through it for 100 feet, and so that's when I made the determination. Like, we're not going to go through with this one because it's outside of that right of way. So he was tasked to go back and talk to you to let you know that, and then just because it came up again when
He did not communicate with us.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I called him and left messages, and
he didn't work for the town shortly after that, so maybe that's why. But I don't know, to be honest with you, what the timeline was. But then this stuff, when we started talking about it more and researching it, because Mark Corsell was the one that said, look at this book and page. So he's the one that led me to the book, which I made a copy of, and then he came in today and brought in the other one. And that was unsolicited. He just was standing in my doorway, and I was like on the phone, and he was waiting for me, and got the phone and said, here's the deed, and then he went down and measured it. So I don't know why, but I had Jeff measure too.
Could I ask a question? Have you, as a town, ever worked with Green Mountain Power about removing trees that might be in danger of hitting utility wires?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have. And they changed the way they're doing business recently in the last couple of years, that their I guess whatever you want to call it, their policy was it's easier to clean it up and fix stuff than going out and proactively cutting stuff down. So I got a guy sitting back there that probably can attest to this, is that we've asked them to take trees down that were threatening power lines, and In some cases they will, but recently, they just let it stay. And they said it's cheaper just to take care of it when it falls and, not go out and proactively start taking stuff down. But it doesn't stop us from asking them.
Well, especially in this case, the tree is not a healthy tree.
Right.
I mean, it's ready to come down.
There's somebody new down there and that took over, after Erica's was killed. Then they got a new person and Jeff just introduced himself to him, so we could reach out to Green Mountain Power and see what they say. But there's no,
But there is the clause, if I'm correct, and I may have misunderstood, that if the tree, say it is on our property, falls and affects the town's right-of-way, that's a different situation, correct?
yeah, what we normally do is if there's like, this is near roads, typically that's what we're dealing with, in the right-of-way. If a tree is leaning and over or threatening the roadway, the states, and we're kind of echoing what the state does, they try to get the landowner, if it's on outside of the right-of-way, to get the landowner to take it down, and if the landowner doesn't want to and they think it's a threat, they'll cut it at the right-of-way, unless they say, then it's still dangerous, and then they'll take the whole thing down, and they won't even, if the landowner doesn't give them permission, they cut it at the right-of-way. For us, we've taken trees down or had contracted to take trees down that were in the right-of-way, and like overhanging a road. So but it's a roadway, it's never been way outside of the roadway, because if that was the case, there'd be how many trees that are outside of outside of that.
But that would include a sidewalk too, I would assume.
Yeah, I don't know what we've done in the past, I don't have the history to say that we've done a lot with the sidewalks or Main Street. I'd probably defer that to Scott Welch. But in a roadway, if there's a tree that's outside of the right-of-way and it's really tall and it could fall into the right-of-way, we don't go out there and take them down. But again, I've never really dealt with Main Street. Like, something falling on me, well, I take that back. There's one across from St. John's the Baptist that Scott's taken down because it's right next to the road and it's a dead maple tree. So I guess there has been, I do know that one. But otherwise, it's not been really something we dealt with.
You have people out there quoting you on this tree now,
Yes.
and you don't have those bids back yet?
I think it's this week, Wednesday, I think, of this week. It was 2 weeks to put it out there. So we had 5, we got 2 new ones. We got the person that Mark Corsell gave us, and then one that Jeff Davison got. So we expanded the number of, there's Valancourt, trees, black bear, this guy that Mark said, and one other one.
I did a quick drive-by of this tree, but I didn't really scrutinize it, so I don't know how imminent this is. Is it a pretty imminent
We
threat?
think it's pretty imminent. One good, long, snowy, heavy, icy winter
Windy.
could take it down. All the wind storms that we've been having. This summer, huge chunks of the bark have been falling off, into our driveway and into the yard. And the town has talked about this for years. They've noticed that the tree is all hollowed out, it's all diseased. Chris, who used to do the ARPA work on Main Street for years, was trying to get the town to take it down, but the tree was going to come down. And I would point out as well, Jeff measured the height of the tree at 50 feet, whereas the UBM people last summer measured it at 66 feet. So I don't know what that's, of course, 15 feet difference. And I look at that tree and I don't see how it's not going to, come down on Main Street. Certainly it's going to come down on the sidewalk, likely the power lines. As I said, there's a water main there. There's trees on the sidewalk, which is town property. So back to my other question, the one Woody raised.
Recording in progress.
If this tree is on our property, but it's still threatening town property,
In the right-of-way.
and the right-of-way, are we still responsible for that? And if there was damage, let's say it took down the power lines, or took down, punctured the water main there, then are we responsible for paying for that?
Those are questions I don't have an answer for yet, but we can get some. I think at this point, our best course of action is to get those bids in as they are, and then we'll be in touch and we'll see what we think is the right thing to do. And there may be some compromise in here, there may not, I don't know.
Well, if it's, you might be up for the compromise.
Okay,
That's the best.
Would it be worth your time to call your insurance company,
Sure.
just to see what they say?
Yeah.
What their protocol is?
That's a good idea. I didn't-
and we will also get a hold of Green Mountain Power because they took down a tree in my front yard about 3 years ago that was really threatening the power lines.
And again, in this case.
And I honestly don't recall what the methodology was, how we got that done. I honestly don't remember. I think I called them and they came and looked and agreed, or,
I understand the point about, there's lots of trees could be threatening town property and power lines. But this is like a really seriously dying tree. I think it's only a matter of time that it's gonna come down and do some kind of damage, either to our house, our neighbor's house, town property. And so I think it's, it's a kind of a crucial moment right now. I don't think it's something we need to wait a whole lot of time on. And our house is in danger as well, like I said.
And our neighbor's house.
I had a very large oak tree about the size of your poplar tree come down in my yard 2 years ago. And the good news is it didn't hit the power lines, didn't do anything except take out half an apple tree.
Well, we
And that turned to-
appreciate your time looking into this. I know it's not clear cut, I mean, I just.
Well, we'll find out what the,
1796 deed, obviously, maybe that's something the town can look at, updating.
well, we'll get
The
a,
property lines around town. I mean, that's pretty old.
we're gonna get
But
a,
what we'll do in the meantime is I'll try to contact Green Mountain Power and see if we can get someone to come out,
and we'll do the same.
see what they say. We'll contact our insurance company. But I think if you could really just keep in mind the dangers of this tree falling and impacting the right of way.
And we'll get the bids, and when we get the bids, Mike will get a hold of me, and then we'll, see if we can figure out what our options are and be in touch with you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And are you taking care of getting the quotes to remove it, or?
He's already done that. He's already sent the request for
You reached
quotes
but
out.
Haven't gotten the quotes, good.
They have a time frame to send them back to us by.
When we put out a request for quote, there's a time frame, and they have to be back to us by a certain date, and that date hasn't come to pass yet.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, folks.
Let's talk about a transfer station Freightliner.
So Heath is here in case you had any questions of the guy driving it, but, so the Freightliner, was brought down to Avalanche Truck Repair, or Truck Services, for one issue, and then some further, inspection, uncovered some additional things that need to be done. It's listed on that form. It'd be $5,854. And you look at it, a lot of it's clamps, pipes, the compressor's the compressor, is probably the largest of all of that. It's $1,550. And then a few other things, but anyway, but he's here, he drives the thing. I don't want to pretend I drive it. But I will say that doing some history, some research on this, we've really spent little on this truck over the years. It's been a really solid truck besides tarps and little things, tires. I believe Heath was told by Avalanche, somebody at Avalanche, that the truck's in really good condition, and that spending $5,800 on this a year to keep it on the road would be a cheap date for us. It's pre-emissions. It's a manual transmission, so not every bloke that we have can drive it, but there's that's in front of us. It'll put it back on the road. The only thing I talked to Evan today, was to make sure that we don't let things like the body start getting out of control, and make sure there's no rot and rust on that. And that we undercoat it like we said we were going to do. And I think the truck will serve us well into the future. we have money in the reserve, but not enough to buy a new truck at this point. I looked at some used trucks back when we thought this was on its last leg, but ended up it really wasn't. But I think $1,500 will get us back on the road, and Evan can continue to maintain it. And I don't know if you want to talk to Mr. Goyette, but he might be able to add some additional.
This work isn't something that the town mechanic can do. It looks like it just pretty much exhaust and, I mean, a drive shaft, which obviously he can't build the drive shaft, but he could install it.
There is some work, but I think was there stuff that the valve cover gaskets and
I don't see, I see air compressor gasket, steering reservoir, hood latch, looks like exhaust.
The thing that comes with that, Rob, is time. The inspection is running out on it.
Okay.
And we go into New York, and Evan's got 2 or 3 snowplow trucks tore apart.
Okay.
And that's where it come, he said if you can take it to Avalanche and they can get it in, and Danny's offered to work with us that he would take it today when we're not driving it.
Yep.
Get it back together so we can haul our trash and we wouldn't end up with a big contractor bill for hauling our trash, because we know that is pretty expensive. We've been down that road. That's why the whole bill come from Avalanche, and then it would be just done and all back together and back on the road to us.
Last year, when we were looking at used ones, we were looking at $100K for a used one, weren't we?
Yeah, the best part of it, or more.
And then, so in your opinion, Heath, how long do you think this will last if we take care of it? Just a while. I can't hold you to it, I know.
Danny said it's in pretty decent shape for the shape it's in. It's what the comment from Danny from Avalanche. He said, like he said, pre-emissions. He said if the frame stays solid and nothing wild goes wrong with it, he said you'd be foolish not to just keep fixing it for now until you had money and was ready to buy it, because it's in that good a shape. And listen, we don't put crazy miles on what some of them trucks do. That truck doesn't go every day like some of them. I was looking online at used ones, and some of the used ones out there have got way more miles than this thing does in half the age. So this truck was bought with low miles on it for that its year, and again, we don't put that many miles on it.
This will make it safe to drive?
This will make it safe to drive. They say it's safe to drive down there to Avalanche, and I agree it's safe to drive.
And you know what to do with that funny pedal on the left?
Yeah, I can make it work with the extra handle.
I've seen you do it.
I mean, we don't really have a choice if the inspection's running out. We can't run it without an inspection sticker, and we don't have the money for another truck, so
What's your pleasure,
it's
board?
kind of a no-brainer.
It's way cheaper to put 10 grand a year in that truck
That's
Correct.
what I'm thinking.
than to go down the road we were an hour and a half ago. Could we get a truck in 3 years? You know, it's ridiculous. I think
does
this is
somebody
gonna
wanna
be
make
the
a mo-
future of it, you know, taking care of these trucks and keeping them going longer.
So let's keep moving.
And Evan has oiled it once this spring, and he hasn't been done it right now because we knew it was gonna be due for inspection, and
The guys at Avalanche will appreciate that.
it isn't oiled yet, because he was working on one the other day that somebody had just brought from somewhere, and he wasn't in,
Yeah.
So what's your pleasure, board?
I would make a motion that we have the truck repaired at Avalanche.
You gotta put a dollar value on there, Mark.
I couldn't find, this is the one thing I couldn't find in my pile. I would make a motion that we have the 2003 Freightliner repaired at Avalanche, all the necessary repairs done for $5,854.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Don't forget what to do with that pedal on the left there.
okay. You just set that computer on the desk when you're done.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Heath.
Got an early call in the morning.
Okay, so let's talk about the budget. What's the latest? Last time I looked, it was 5%, Mike.
This says it's 4.9%.
I was rounding up. So this includes the hits we're getting for, health insurance, correct?
Correct.
And also what the best guess we have for wages?
Correct, up through the end, the October's CPI numbers. So I put it at the back, I kind of created a visual for you. The back page of what the changes were for labor, changes for employee benefits, and the FICA. The healthcare, or the health insurance was 14% for starting January 1st through the end of that year, but this budget goes into July of the following year, so we don't have those numbers. So we typically have to kind of look at what the trend has been, so I put 10% in there as a number, because we were using 8, and 8, it's exceeded 8 for 2 years in a row, so I moved it to 10%. And what, you might question why, if you look at that, the labor costs were only up $119,000 over the previous year. We also had some new hires, so some people come in at a lower rate than what the person that was there. In the case with Heath, he was a higher rate, so it kind of washed out. So with both the union contracts, taking into account their step raises and the cost of living, the wages would be $119 or $120,000, I'm sorry. And then the benefits, the employee benefits stuff, a lot of that got weighed out with the buyouts.
Yep.
Because if you look at it, it's only about $12,000 increase. That's because if I put the buyouts in there, and that takes, instead of us, the town, paying $32,000 for health insurance, we're paying 10.
Yeah.
So that really cut there's 4 people. And I have to say I should recuse myself from those because I'm one of them in that process, but it's the same as everybody else, so it's not like I'm getting favoritism or anything, but.
So 60% of the $240,000 increase, or $204,000 increase that you have so far is wages and benefits.
That sounds like
We haven't even talked about paving or trucks.
Or any other thing. There's a few things in here in the budgets that I knew about. We're still waiting on the passive insurance changes that I expect those to come out this week, maybe early next week. With a short week this week, it may not happen. But I did talk to the league, Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns, the passive, and went through our buildings and our vehicles and what they're being insured for. And I think I told you last meeting, we were underinsured on some contents. That has been corrected for the fire station, for the wastewater treatment facility. Those are the big ones, the 2 real big ones that had the contents. They did explain to me that the pump stations, the pumps and the pumps, the panels, and all that stuff are all considered part of the building, so I didn't have to, because I had a question on that, whether or not we had to, because one of those pumps was $60,000.
They're not contents,
They're part of the building. Yeah, so that was, so they left those figures that were there be, and then add it. We didn't increase the contents for those. But I don't have those to plug in yet. So there's probably gonna be some increase to the insurance on that. I just don't know what it's gonna be. Some of the stuff on contents I asked, and things in the open, like fences and all that stuff, it doesn't move the needle too much on it. But the fire station, they had $30,000 on the contents of the fire station, and I'm like, okay, what's counted as the building, and what's things on trucks? So they have a separate listing for items they consider portable. So we went through that list, and I kind of ciphered out. I talked to Heath, and I think we got a good solid number now that if this building were to burn to the ground, that we're adequately insured. And these are costs that it's replacement, and it actually goes above replacement. So it's not like if we lose it, that we're only getting a percentage of it. It's insured to that full value plus. I forgot, there was like 10% over, or something like that was another number. So I feel like we're adequately insured now for those things that we weren't. But also on that back page, I gave a little chart there saying if you were to increase that budget by 200,000 to add in the reserves for the fire department, the highway department, and the paving, what those percentages would be and what the number would be. It's in the blue and pink boxes on the last page.
Now, I'm just throwing this out there. Is that something that we could put in a separate line to vote on, like a separate article? That extra money for that?
The reserve accounts. I don't see why, I'll ask the question, I don't see why legally we can't.
I think that's probably not a bad idea.
Because I know we had the meeting on it, and of course, nobody showed up. I think that all the reserve and the paving, that's something that's super important, but I'm worried people are just not gonna understand why it increased so much. And if there was a separate article on it, then somebody could explain it at the meeting.
Well, that, and they would be aware that it's.
That
increase is there for this reason.
Because it's a large increase. I mean, it's a lot.
And then the voters could have the information needed to make a decision on what they want us to do, because I think you're right. I think that's a good suggestion. So let's look into how we can do that.
Yeah.
Because right now, we're putting, in round numbers, we're putting 100,000 a year, or a little over 100,000, 106,000 and change into the fire department reserve, and you're talking about increasing that by 50,000. And I understand why, because of the price of fire trucks and the fact that we're gonna have to replace engine 3 or refurbish it in 10 years, and that's gonna be around $1 million.
I don't think anybody can say that we're not getting the full lifespan out of our vehicles. We've gone beyond recommended replacement schedule on all of them. But for somebody to be like, oh, you guys don't need new trucks all the time, maybe they don't understand, We just put 20,000 in that tandem last year. That thing could die tomorrow. I'd rather spend 20,000 on a payment or save the money and have a truck that's under warranty that we can get back, not one that's gone for 3 months or that's not worth fixing.
I don't know, would the board wanna have some kind of, strategy to get the word out to the public before it just shows up on a ballot article? Because, so that there's an explanation of why it's going up and the schedules, and I'm not sure if we can I can probably post the schedules, but if who looks at that schedule by reading it out there is the same amount of people that show up at the town meeting or these meetings, it's gonna be very little people that look at it.
We had a special meeting specifically for this so that people wouldn't be caught off guard when they see it, and nobody showed up, and I'm sure nobody knows about it. And it's frustrating.
Right, we publicized it pretty well.
Because it's a rather large amount of money, but it's something that we're gonna be in worse shape down the road if we don't do something with it. It's only gonna get worse. We're beyond the point of maintaining. We're past that. Something has to be done, or else 10 years from now, we're gonna be screwed.
And borrowing money, even if we were able to get a low interest rate, we're still paying interest on something. So we're gonna pay now or pay later. It's because we have to borrow that money. And we got $1 million line of credit with M&T Bank.
And this is, we know the trucks are gonna have to be replaced. The paving schedule, who wants to drive through Castleton if the road's like Scotch Hill on the Fairhaven side? And that's where we're gonna be.
Some are starting that way now, like East Hubbardton Road.
Yeah, that's what I mean, and it's gonna get to the point where we can't afford to just resurface it, and we can't afford to tear it up, so it's just gonna be, shit, basically.
Yeah, and your statement that we take care of our trucks is, the engine 3 is the one that we're looking to get another 10 years out of? And
Yeah, the trucks are beautiful.
And that's 16 years old now.
Yeah.
But we're looking at getting at least another 10 years out of it, possibly more. So, and the vehicle that we're replacing with the new Ford pickup is an 87. So we can't say we didn't get our.
Look at the ladder truck the ladder truck, for example, is the last one that's still currently in use anywhere.
That's what, 80? No.
83.
83?
So you can't say that we haven't stretched them as far as we can go. Nobody stretched a Maxim ladder truck further than us at this point.
Good point.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
And the one that we upgraded from was a 57 or 58, Mark, do you remember?
So,
Oh, anyways,
The open cab truck.
I think your suggestion of possibly a separate line item on the ballot is a good one, because then the voters can be, at least know that there's an issue that we have to address, and do they choose to kick the can down the road or start
Yeah,
addressing
because I
it?
mean, adding 200,000 to the budget is gonna up it a significant amount.
Well, we're, yeah,
Yeah,
well, most of the
200,000.
increase that we're looking at now.
Percentage wise, you know,
Most of the increase we're looking at now is beyond our control. 60% of the increase.
is
that
labor.
is labor. And we have to have help. We have to have people to do things.
I mean, the other stuff is, you know, fuel was a big increase, which everybody know gas costs more now. I mean, the only other thing that I questioned when I was going through it was, I know that we talked about it once before, and I know that there was stuff to talk about, but adventure camp. How can we, that was $22,000 or $26,000 was in the budget this year, and now you're looking at knocking it down to 10? How is that gonna be possible? If he was as far over last year as he was.
They were 21, or 20, I think we had budgeted 20 or 21, and they were over by like $1,000. But because what we didn't take into account is that's supposed to be paid for by the fees. So if we're paying an employees to run a venture camp, we have to pay them out of our operating budget, but that's offset by the revenues. So at the end of the year, when we look at the loss, profit and loss statement kind of thing, that's not really called profit and loss in
Yeah.
government accounting, but that it should be offset by the fees. So we should be taking enough money in. That's why I left $6,000 in there, because there was a question about those that were financially not able to go. We got sponsors. We're still gonna look at getting sponsors. But if there's a need there, then there's $6,000 in there for things that are gonna likely crop up, but not the full amount. And 6,000 was really an arbitrary number, because I don't know how many people aren't gonna be able to pay, or.
Okay, you just had to have something there as opposed.
We were over on travel and allowances, because they're going back and forth to pick up the food to Fairhaven and Shaw's and all this, so that was an over budget, or overspent, so that's why.
So they're
it's in
gonna
there.
tighten up the reins on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where I left it at. You know, I mean, could it be dropped $2,000? Yeah. How is it gonna impact the 4.4 million? Very little. And then be short if we're there. If it doesn't, and it goes back into a surplus, and, you know, then again, the voters get to decide on, you know, if they want to use that money. But I don't know if I'm not sure if there's gonna be a surplus, because, you know, we were overspent before, so.
See, at the end of the day, that $4.4 million, that's a lot more money than I'm used to looking at. So like thousands, that's where I'm kind of like, oh, we gotta save that, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and it does all add up. Mary Lee, you any thoughts on the budget so far? Mark?
No.
Bob?
This is not gonna be popular, but did anybody else look at the police department budget? How it's up $64,000, or it's projected to be up $64,000 this coming year, and another 68,000 the following year. It's gonna be up 129,000 from the year that
Over a
ended.
2-year period.
Yeah.
What
over the
page
2
are
year.
you on, Bob?
A lot of that was salary though, right? Salary and insurance.
What page are you on?
Well,
I
we
think it was
started-
because Bob wanted to take the car home.
that hurt, Mark. That hurt big time.
Yeah, remember we talked about that?
We budget, one of the big increases is before the,
What
I
page?
thought page 7.
Just the totals at the end.
but look at the 1 year increase was kind of an anomaly, because when the union contract was negotiated, we said we're going to start at July 1st of like whatever it was the next year, but we also had some time in that same year that we had to absorb because it was effective, whatever, you know, same with the highway department. It was like, it's effective immediately, or whatever date it was. So it was before the end of the fiscal year. So we paid them more money in the same budget, whatever was appropriated by the voters. But the police department, when they negotiated that new contract with the town, that's where the numbers fell. I mean, they get a 2-step percent increase between, or 2% in between steps, and they get whatever the 75% of the consumer price index for New England. We never know what that's gonna be. It could be 7% next year. And we're gonna pay 75% of 7%. So that'd be a real sharp contrast to what it is now. We're at 2.6063 right now, or 2.63% right now. And that was as of end of October's numbers. So we're still waiting for November's numbers to be able to, for me to update the spreadsheet, but those won't come out until the middle of December, towards the latter part of December. So you won't see accurate figures in there until those numbers come out from the consumer price index.
Do you think we can sustain that budget going up $65,000 every single year? I mean, within the next 2 or 3 years, it's gonna be $1 million.
Yeah, I don't want to say that I can or.
No, I know,
but.
It's an unfair question. I apologize for that. It just took me by shock, like, oh my God, from 584 to over $700,000 in a 2-year period. Of course, we don't know, like you said, what that's gonna be
Yeah.
in the end of 2026, so.
And 62 of that 65 is wages and benefits, Bob.
Yeah.
So aside from cutting officers, that's about where we're at.
And the only other thing the town has on benefits is to look at another provider of and then it has to still get bargained with the, if there's something, as long as it doesn't like cut their, it's comparable. So is comparable meaning less money? I don't know. If we go to somebody else saying, we want to see what you can provide us that provides this, co-pays and caps and stuff like that, I don't know what we're gonna get. But we're in the league, so it's a pool, so we should be getting better rates than if we just went on our own, because we're part of a very, 127 towns or whatever pool.
Sure.
And a conversation we haven't had, Bob, and maybe we need to, and get the public's input, is that other towns around here have cut their police coverage hours and the amount of time and the level of police presence they have in their towns. And one town not too far away, just across the border, totally in the last fiscal year has eliminated their police department.
Really?
So Whitehall no longer has a police department. They contract with Washington County Sheriffs. And I know some people, I do a lot for Skeen Manor over there, and I know some people that are in that town, and they're not pleased. Some of the behavior of some other citizens has been modified now that there's no police presence, and it's a less pleasant place to be. So the question we have is, what do our taxpayers want us to do? Once again, same as highway and
Yep.
fire trucks and police cars, what do our taxpayers desire? Do they want this level of police presence, or do they want to reduce the coverage? And then there's a price tag that comes with that.
We can see that in communities that aren't that far away from us.
Right, there's a couple of neighboring or communities right in this county that cut their coverage in the last few years. And,
Look at what's happened to the city of Burlington.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, they haven't seen the tip of the iceberg. They got officers that are ready to, like 13 officers that are still there, they're ready to walk.
I have a,
Did you see that chief just resigned?
Yeah, they said if he goes, they're probably gonna go, so.
I have a child that lives in another town in Franklin County who is reluctant to walk her daughter and her dog down the streets, in the neighborhood she lives in now. They drive someplace else to go walking.
And that's one thing that we can say about Castleton, is I feel like we have far less issues than, towns that are even bordering towns, we'll say.
With the university here.
So,
Yeah.
A 10% increase in the police budget is awful and hard to accept, but that's what it costs to maintain and attract good officers and maintain the level of police we have. So once again, we'll have to ask the voters if they want to maintain that or not.
Would that be a ballot article you would, think of, like, would you?
I don't know that basically, we're gonna have to come up with the best budget we can and present it to the voters and ask them to approve it. If they don't approve it, then we'll have some decisions to make. Or that's my opinion. I can't speak for the whole board, I'm only 20% of the board. and I'm only, 0.3% of the voters.
I know towns are forced into it. I mean, Pulteney looked at trying to reestablish, I talked to their emergency management director 2 years ago, and they wanted to try to reestablish the police department, but when they got to cost and what the voters wanted, the people didn't want to pay that much money, so.
And it would cost significantly more to start a police department than it is to maintain one. I would think. I don't know that, but I would think it would. So go ahead, Mary.
Mary McIntyre, my thought just is a retired police officer and still very much involved in state law enforcement. Mark brought up the point about Burlington. Probably one thing that people are going to be concerned about is just what you're saying about what's going around and how that affects our services. How often are our cruisers seen doing services in other towns? Because that is going to affect us. I think, if you're talking points, that those are key talking points is, our taxpayers, are they paying for services for us? Or are they paying for services for other towns as well?
I think at this point, I think that it's pretty well known that criminal activity is not welcome in Castleton. So, and we need to maintain that if we can, and if the taxpayers are willing to maintain that. Because I think that's the best way to put it. Criminal activity is not welcome.
She's got a valid point with the other towns, though. Like, what do we do? We're spending time, like the chief says every time, how many people stop here that are from different towns. Those are hours taken out of our police department people to, not necessarily look into it, but to have conversations, an hour's an hour, where they could have been doing something else. I mean, I don't know how we turn people away and say, we're not interested in hearing your problems, that's another town.
Well, here you go. From October, he had 3 assists in Fairhaven. Same as the month before. They don't have anywhere near the coverage we do.
They cut their coverage last year.
They cut their coverage, so.
How many, I guess the question, something I'd like to know is how many assists do we get from other towns?
I thought he had that on there.
That's on there.
It was he had 2 different categories.
We provided 2 to Pulteney. They don't have a force.
Sheriff's
But
Department.
backing up, I think he said the state police in both cases. So he kind of has to maintain that relationship. One in Hubbardton, they don't have a force.
And they don't,
Are there any assists from other agencies to us in that document, Mark? He used to list that.
You used to, yeah.
He used to be on the same chart.
No. Just backup provided by CPD.
I know that Fairhaven has backed up Castleton many times in the last few years. I don't have any data on the quantity, and I know VSP has backed up Castleton as well. But once again, I don't have that quantified.
I know it used to be on that, but.
I don't think mutual aid is something that we want to not do.
The chief is aware, we certainly question him on that. He knows that's a concern.
Well, that's why that information is now in his report when it was not in the past. It was a few years ago, we asked him to start including that.
If they go with outsourcing, if somebody want to talk about outsourcing, you look at why we're backing up Pulteney, in Pulteney and the Sheriff's Department, is they're hiring, they're not level 3 certified, so they can't do any felony things. So we end up backing them up, because you have to be level 3 certified. So the Sheriff's Department can hire people that are level 2 certified and go out there and do patrols and stuff like that. But if you had that in your town, it's your only source, and you had an investigation, either they're turning it to the state police or somebody else in their organization that has the level of certification to do those investigations.
So it has to be us.
So it's simple to say, put them in our town, run radar, and earn revenue, that kind of thing. But if they're doing criminal work with felonies involved, their level 2 officers can't do it.
Just off the cuff. If the voters, and they should be here listening, and they're not, well, like, what's important to me? The safety of my kids and grandkids and whatnot is important to me. But it might not be so for someone else, or adventure camp, or repairs to whatever, or whatnot. Castleton wants the best, but they don't want to pay for the best. So how do we get it through to the people that you pay for what you get, or you get what you pay for, I should say. I mean, it's common sense, but how you're gonna get it out to the public, I have no clue. Because to everybody, certain thing is more important than something else.
You know, something that surprised me when I saw some numbers, I think, from the Rutland Region Planning Commission was the fact that Castleton has the second highest population in all of Rutland County. So I think as Castleton is a small town and, you know, we're not as big as some of these other ones, but in reality, we're the second largest population in Rutland County. So if our budget is up there compared to West Rutland or another smaller town, I think that would only be logical. I mean, we're serving more population. And I think a lot of people probably don't know that fact, that we're the second largest population in Rutland County.
We have the second largest amount of roads maintained too.
Yeah, I mean, that's all information that I wouldn't even think was, you know, we're Castleton. Castleton's a small town.
And that means police coverage, more police coverage.
Well, it's our responsibility to create the services that the taxpayers want. And I think in the past, yeah, everybody wants their taxes to be lower, but in the past, I think our community has supported almost all the budgets. You know, they understand that we have a nice community, and they understand that that's not free. Nobody's happy about what they have to pay, right? Everybody wants to pay less, but they still understand it's what's necessary to have this level of community that we have, to have the roads plowed the same day that it snowed, not 3 days later, to have a good fire department that's there if you should need them, to have sidewalks, to look at the recreation center. You know, we had no one came to the meeting and spoke in opposition of it. People want to live in a nice town. And I think the budget's gonna pass pretty well. If it doesn't, I guess we'll have to figure out what it is people don't wanna spend, what they don't wanna pay for. We'd have to break some of these items out, vote on separate line items, I guess.
Well, we've had that conversation about consolidating the ballot, but maybe we should look at it a different way. Those 30-some line items we have on our ballot may be awkward and cumbersome to vote, but it can also be a useful tool. Because if there's some particular portion of this $4.4 million budget that the voters don't like, they can tell us.
And we don't have to go back through the whole thing
Correct.
and change what they, you know, maybe they didn't like one part of it and we changed the wrong thing.
We can focus on that, but once again, it's our responsibility to create the best, most aggressive budget we can while maintaining the services that the voters expect, or the taxpayers expect. So, this is a part where,
Well, then we can break it out.
and Mike's done, I think, a splendid job of figuring out what the questions are. And now we've got to come up with some answers, but we're not done getting we still have some more things to do. I think Rob's idea of a separate line item on.
Separate line item for paving and then a separate line item for reserve accounts for vehicles.
Yeah, but we also have to maintain what's in the budget now.
Correct.
In addition, and then propose
Yeah,
these
in
things.
addition to the reserve that's
But we
there.
also have to do a great job of educating the public as best we can, for those that were willing to listen, as to why we recommend these increases. And why the police budget's gonna be up 10% and what we get in return for that. And if there's nothing else on the budget, I think it's time to move on.
It is, just one thing, I don't know if any of you saw the Channel 3 news tonight, but Montpelier is asking all their citizens to put in recommendations, a referendum, to put in what their thoughts were on what should be spent on the budget. I thought that was a great idea. Whether anybody answers back, I don't know, but that gives them the opportunity. It's out there, they can do it however they choose to do it. I thought it was a great idea.
I'm gonna have to look at that recording.
Yeah, look it up.
Check it out.
Yes, yeah.
Knowledge and information is always a very powerful and useful tool. And any thoughts that the public has, I'm willing to listen to. Go ahead, Mike.
In the past, you've mentioned at budget time how the increase impacts a particular resident, or homeowner, landowner, for their value of their property. I would, hopefully that we would do that again this year, look at that. So even if it's, what would $75,000 be to your taxes, what you'd pay, to have good fire trucks or have good, whatever, have roads paved? If that, when they can look at that amount and say, that cost to me would be $10, because it's split about.
Yeah, is it worth it for me to pay an extra $10 a year to have, our equipment up to date and not be scrambling and not, my road not get plowed until 4 o'clock in the afternoon because we got a truck down and that's when they can get to it.
Sometimes when you put the dollar, when my personal percentage based on my value of my home, equates to like my taxes will go up $50. That's sometimes palatable. They're like, oh, $50. I don't want to lose $50, but it's $50 is good investment to make sure our trucks are mission capable and our roads aren't falling apart. So sometimes that just puts it in perspective.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So that's a number you can get.
I remember doing that with this firehouse, and this firehouse cost everybody with a $200,000 house $50.
Well, I feel I'm very favorable
That's a great thing.
to our fire department. I've had them twice to the ground, both, not my house, the barn and the shed to the thing, and I can't say enough good for them.
That was a long day, Mary.
I think you can look through the whole community and say that, that we live in a really, really nice community. I mean, we have a beautiful library in our town. They have a lot of services that particularly support, well, all demographics. They just put the library in to make it more accessible for people as old as Dick. And,
Merry Christmas, Mark.
and they have, they support the young families. They have story hours and crafts. You go out there in the evenings, and many evenings it's full with young families, young children, giving them the kind of community that people want to raise a family in. Same thing with our police department. We have very low crime here. Police officers are doing outreach with delivering food to people that benefit from that. We have a beautiful town hall here where it's accessible to everybody. Our departments are really good.
I think that the things that I see, like our buildings, we have only one building that doesn't have emergency power right now, backup power. And I thank the select board for, over the years, of making sure we have that, so services can be provided and doors can't be opened and heat's not on. And so those are things that other towns don't have. And they may seem really, insignificant to some, but until the power goes out. And our shelter doesn't have power and you can't open that up, or garage doors can't be opened because there's no power, and pipes freeze because there's no heat and all. So I'm always thankful and try to ground myself in gratitude of what we do have. But I'm never typically satisfied. That's just my nature, is I always want to be better. And I look at some of this stuff and it's like, let's just make sure that we can provide that stuff to be good, to be good stewards of the money that they give us, and provide the services and that people expect.
Yeah. Do you want less than you're accustomed to is pretty much the question.
And a lot of those things you're describing are like insurance. You don't need them until you do. But when you do, you're glad you have it.
Absolutely.
All right, can we move on? I know that.
Is there any guidance
There's a lot of-
for me on this for the next go-around?
I think we just had to look into if we could put those as separate articles.
All you can do, Mike, is continue gathering data as you get it and continue keeping us as updated as you can. I think, my opinion is you've done a fine, splendid job so far. And keep doing it, because this is not going to be, it's not going to be going down, that we know that. It's, things cost more, and we need to know we need to quantify that, and then come up with a budget we can support and then present it to the voters. And then we have to do a good job of making sure the voters understand why it is what it is.
Right. I will keep doing
Some of
that.
some of the increases from using the one-time funding for stuff that, you don't see that. Maybe the budget should have been higher last year, it should have been higher the year before, but we used one-time money that we had and it kept it down, and now it's all gone. So
It's
that's,
biting you.
that's another thing to look at is the numbers from the previous years aren't necessarily gonna be even up through.
Yeah, we've made it, with the one-time money is
I
wonderful
mean,
thing.
it's a great thing until you start to look back at the numbers. If that's all you look at is numbers,
That's why
then,
we tried to use it for long-term
Yeah.
things as much as we could.
yeah.
Okay, now we're gonna move on to one-time money. ARPA funds.
I was leading you into it, Dick.
It's a splendid job.
In your packet was the, I don't know if you lose an eye chart in one of those, I can send it to you electronically, but all those proposals, the one for the paving is like an eye chart. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't wanna get in the weeds on that now because
they're
we're
just in your packets. If you-
already at 9:30.
Nicely done.
That wasn't in our packet, it's from last week.
Job well planned is half done,
This
right?
one you're right here, put it,
No, that's the ARPA, it was in our packet.
it was in our packet?
Yeah,
Did I?
it was right under the budget.
This is the budget that was in my packet.
Yeah, and that's old now. This supersedes that.
Yeah.
Here, I got it. If you get it to me, I'll put it here.
Yeah, you wanna trash that?
Yeah.
But I just wanna make sure the ARPA wasn't attached to it, right?
It is not.
No.
It was not in mine.
Okay.
Got an ARPA sheet?
I must have left it on the counter.
I have an extra one here.
Well, maybe I just doubled up on it. Oh, no, he wants the ARPA.
That was the ARPA
Oh,
one.
oh.
That's what Dick's gonna talk
I'll
about.
look at Mary Lee's.
No, you want
I've got one that's, well, we could share, but,
You didn't have one either, Rob? The ARPA?
I didn't. I'll have to look at home again,
Is
but
it in the,
it wasn't, no.
it isn't in with your budget one
Nope.
that's
Or out of
so good?
sequence.
It is not.
mine was right after the budget in my packet.
Yeah, that's
Mine
where I
was
stuffed him.
right with it too.
So we have, to recap, we have allocated 1,026,000 and change so far. We have not allocated 322,827, but some of that has been committed. Is that accurate, Mike? We committed to the salt shed, didn't we?
We did. I didn't move that one?
You did
Oh, I
not?
apologize. Yeah, that should have been moved to the green section.
Yes,
Yeah, sorry about that.
How much was that?
160.
160.
That needs to be in the green section.
Yeah, I'll
Correct.
add it. Oh, I apologize.
So if you, in round numbers, you take 160 from 322, you get what, 162? Is that right? So we got 162,000 we have not allocated. Now, whatever we allocate, we gotta make sure we can spend by the end of calendar year 2026. Or obligate is the right word.
We have to obligate it
By the end
by
of
this
this year.
December, right, at the end of this year.
We have 2 more meetings to make these decisions.
Oh, okay.
And then once we've obligated it, we have 2 years to spend it. Now, we do not have to, correct me if I'm wrong here, Mike, we do not have to obligate nor spend any of the interest we've earned from the ARPA money, which around now totals $53,000.
As of May, so that's gonna keep growing.
That was as of May?
So it's higher than that now?
Yeah.
Once again, we do not have to obligate that, nor do we have to spend it with any time constraints at all. That's correct, isn't it? So what we need to do is focus on the 162 approximately. My mental math may be off a little bit. And that's basically, what Mike recommends is 3 items. Now, wait a minute, the enclosed trailer, didn't we already obligate that as well
Yeah.
for the fire
Did I not
department?
move those, or I give you a bad copy?
This is what I had in my packet.
Some of us didn't even have it in our
As of
packets.
11:20.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell I got going on here tonight.
I got it as of 11/25/24.
Yeah, that's,
Yep.
but I didn't move the 100 and, whatever, 160.
Or the 32.
Okay.
So what he's basically looking at is moving 30K into the repaving, or into the paving.
Yeah.
The
10
public
of
service.
that's for crack sealing this parking lot. It didn't get done yet. The parking lot of this facility here. As, crack sealing it, but seal coating it.
Seal coating, it says.
Yeah.
And the other item that Mike is recommending is for our share of the stormwater infrastructure upgrades in the village. That's a hanging pendulum over our head. That's gonna, sooner or later, we're gonna have some catastrophic failures in the village if we don't fix that.
The issue with the stormwater too is timing, because they're scheduled to pave through Main Street in 2026, the spring of 2026. So anything that we're gonna do on those streets, we need to get finished before
They pave.
they pave, because otherwise we're gonna tear up brand-new pavement.
No, we're not doing that.
And the stormwater grants that I've looked at so far aren't designed to do the infrastructure, so that money that's there, a lot of it would have to probably be used before 26 to replace the stuff that's under, at least the stuff that's under the roads. Because I don't think that these grants, if you have followed the bouncing ball on these federal grants, I mean, it could take 2 years before we're ready for construction on them, which by the time you go through engineering and their phases of those TAP grants or whatever. So a lot of that money might be ended up being used to fix the stuff, like if we have to put a new culvert in or pipe underneath the, on the road, we'd have to do it on our own.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we already do some scoping studies on stormwater in the village?
There's been several. The one that you just authorized, Fuss and O'Neill to design behind the village school, that takes into account some of the stuff in the streets, but not all the way up and down Main Street. And we know that, there's a one that goes underneath, Route 4A or Main Street by Raylan's, the store, John Raylan's, Blue Cat, that isn't part of that collection that goes out behind the school. So they're only looking at the infrastructure right now that feeds into the storm drains that daylight behind the village school. But as soon as there's a grant out there that's will accommodate what we're looking for, I will let you know, but right now there's nothing.
So when are we going to commit ourselves to making some decisions on this board?
Tonight.
I'm not opposed, I just want to make sure that everyone's ready, because
So-
we,
We're looking at,
105,000.
get rid of this 35.
Yeah, we got 135,577.
75, that's 105.
Yeah, but, no, we don't, because didn't you just
This
say the
is done.
32,000
I
already?
just took that out.
You did, and you
Yeah.
still got 120?
135,577.
I got one thing on the back there, the tree warden thing.
So what'd you get for number?
135,577.
Took
Right
this,
down here at the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure, we're getting different numbers, so I'm not sure.
We got,
The one with Mike's.
what did we
I
have?
took the 322 that you had.
Yep,
322,
And subtracted the
827.
160 that we already committed for the salt shed.
yep.
And then added in the 32,
We're taking it off.
added in, because you had it as an expense, but it's already out of that money.
You have to subtract it, right, because it's in there.
Subtract it off that total number, right?
Yes.
So 135,577.
Is what's left.
Yeah.
No, I added it back in to the 322.
You gotta subtract it, don't you?
Yeah, because that's what's left unspent.
Yeah.
So if you've spent it, you gotta subtract it
So
from
it
that.
should be 135,777.
Needs to be moved to the
Okay,
green
yep.
section.
What's that?
It needs to get moved to the other section.
130.
God, I apologize, I don't know how that was. Then on the back page, just to bring it to your attention, I added a column on the blue part, because
We have 130,000.
the town lands and the tree stuff, of what we're facing for, well, you heard tonight, about trees, but.
That's what we've got left right now.
That's basically $16,000 a year over the next 2 years to get our roads cleaned up with all. I drove around again today on North Road and said, we're just waiting for something to come down on somebody. But we also have Trees Incorporated that we've already paid to do some of these roads, where they haven't finished them yet. But this 16 grand a year to get these diseased, dead and dying trees it gets eaten up like that. But if you try to add that into a tree warden's budget, which is not even $16,000 a year,
Yeah.
people are gonna question, like, what are you doing? And so that's why I moved it into that and see if you'd agree to
Well, that we don't have to obligate tonight.
No, I just an explanation if you're wondering why they're there.
The answer is the old ladder truck. Instead of selling it for 5,000, we can use that for cutting trees along the roadside.
And paying for the ladder test, was certified ladder to be on it, and, but the,
There's a lot of exposure
the
there.
bucket, the
Of
basket
course
that's
there
on
is.
that you authorized for the, loader, when Scott Welch gets back from his hunting trip, he and Mike Smith are gonna be, Mike's gonna drive the loader and Scott's gonna be in the bucket, and they're gonna take a lot of this stuff down that they can, but there's a lot of it they can't do.
So
So then-
we're having trees do that, though, the stuff that,
We're having trees do stuff that we can't do.
what's the holdup with them? I mean, we talked with them back in the spring.
Yeah, they've done a lot of it, but there's, the roads that they need traffic control on are the ones that they've held to the last, that haven't been done yet.
Did we give them a time frame when they have to be done by? No?
Jeff just gave them that, come on, man, winter's coming, snow loads, and, gotta get out there to get this stuff taken down before it comes down.
Maybe if we bid out jobs like that again, we should put a time frame on it.
No, I don't think we ever guessed that would be.
Yeah,
Take this
I
long.
mean, but
Yeah.
nowadays, everybody's got more work, it seems like, than they can handle, so.
How about if I made a motion to approve the $30,000 for paving, 75 for the stormwater infrastructure, $25,000 for the tree warden, and at the next meeting, you could give us an update of exactly what's left. Should be about 25,000.
Yeah, I think, what was in the blue, is that the CVS thing, or the, fields?
It's in there, yeah, the field, in the CVS building.
Yeah.
We wanna focus on the
Yeah.
red right now.
I think Mark was talking about, because the tree warden stuff is in the blue, right?
No, it's in the
No,
red.
that's in the red.
Oh, okay, sorry, all right. I'm not looking at it right now, Bob's got one, 'cause I forgot to put one in his packet.
I think you should do that, Mark.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the town manager to commit ARPA funds in the amount of $30,000 towards capital projects paving, $75,000 for storm drainage systems, $25,000 to the tree warden, and at the next meeting, we'll have an update of what funds are left and decide how to spend those.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to obligate the remaining ARPA funds as as suggested by Mr. Brown. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Mark, I don't know where you come up with the 25,000, but I got like 5,000 left. Am I leaving out a number? You said there would be $25,000 left. I got 5,000 would be left. I just wanna make sure we're on the same page.
I think we should let Mike update the spreadsheet and get the right number.
Okay.
Cause my mental math said $577, so.
That's not good. Well, but that's everything obligated in the orange?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So,
you're
Mike,
pretty
if you
close
can-
with $577, Dick, on that.
Pardon?
I think you were close on the 577.
Because it was originally $577 as part of one of the ones above, like paving was like something 577, so that's probably why.
It was the tree thing,
Yeah.
yeah, 25,577, but.
Yeah.
I called that question and we voted on it, right? So let's move on. Dock space agreement review. No.
Is this different than it has been?
This is the same one we've been fighting with for at least all the time I've been on the select board.
That was on my table, yeah. I don't know what I did with it. It's here.
It's right there.
I got it, Dick. It's here.
Yeah,
I
well,
just-
we can share because I've read it several times
You've got it
today.
memorized? That's good.
That wasn't on the agenda.
I know, so, did you get a copy of that in your packets?
Yes.
Okay, because that was in there because in the blue, I think below, there was that in there. I don't have the quotes yet. I won't have them until that first meeting in December for the health officers' records and stuff, so that's why that was in there. So you could see what it cost last time.
We're gonna talk about dock spaces, so. We're still going down the road of, people building docks too big, over encroaching on other people's spaces, people fighting over spaces, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
That pretty well sum it up? Is anyone on the board not familiar with the issues down at the common area, just north of Crystal Beach? Everyone on the
Yes,
board?
I'm not.
Well, my understanding is that there's been, that if you bought property from what used to be on the town farm, you get the right to use the common area that's north of Crystal Beach. And that includes a dock space. And those dock spaces, when it originally was done, were much smaller than what most boats require now. I think it was a 12-foot space. And they're limited to a 4-foot wide dock, which means you're limited to an 8-foot boat. There's a lot of boats that are wider than 8 feet now. So there's been
How wide was the,
unhappy
how wide
people
was
down there.
the lots again?
12 feet.
I think they were 12 feet. And it says in here you're limited to a 4-foot dock.
Which I ran by the attorney, way back when, because once it goes over the water, we have no authority
Yeah.
over it. And so, it's the land part of it. So if someone put a 4-foot dock and it's 1 inch over the water and they went out with it, we have no say over it. And
So, this here says dock not to exceed 4 feet by 12 feet. This doesn't stop somebody from putting a dock that's 12 feet wide across their whole thing and 4 feet out, which would then screw their neighbor over.
yeah, the attorney said, if you have no authority over how far a dock can go out, so we say 12 feet, but they're like, I can go 50 feet out into the lake as long as I'm not impeding navigation.
Which some of them are.
That we can't tell them their dock can only be 12 feet. So it's not forcible. She said, you can leave it on there to try to get people to do that, but if the state says they can go 50 feet out into the water and not impede a navigation lane, then we have no authority once it goes over the water.
Did I see something, maybe it was in an email or in the manager's report about like a group that was interested in taking over?
It was in my report here saying maybe a way to help the town, help me personally, with the complaints that come in is that they've said before, give us some power to like oversee this place and make sure that squatters, because we have a big issue with this past year with squatters. So people were using docks or dock spaces that weren't theirs. Maybe a friend told them that dock space hasn't been used in 5 years. So they bring their boat in and they moor it there. And we had people that are encroaching into the next dock space. You and I were up there, Rob, and saw that some of the complaints were valid. But some of them are, where that boat is wider than that 12 feet space. And the next person now has to encroach, go shift their boat and over to the farther into somebody else's space. And as long as there's big boats that are wider than what these spaces, to include the dock, are,
Which that's nothing that we can control, but we still have to listen to the complaint. You know, if they got a boat that's too wide,
Yeah.
that's over the water, so that's nothing to do with us, but
Well, Rob had the answer that if adjoining lot owners, you guys each have 12 feet, share a dock in the middle. Then you've got room for a 10-foot boat on either side. If people could get along and do that. Because there's too much space being taken up by docks used by one person. One dock would easily service 2 lots.
But I don't know how you would get them to do that. That would probably have to go to if you,
It's so simple and it clears it all up.
if
'cause there aren't
somebody
no wiring
started
intent.
some sort of, I don't know what the word I would say is. If you could get somebody that was interested in trying to take the effort to go out and contact these people and try to work with them.
There is a group, there's 3 people, it's been the same ones, Rick Pontillo, Ray Lamoria,
Joe Smith.
and Joel Smith. Yep, they've said, hey, empower us and we'll let you know when something's wrong if we can't, like, people say you're encroaching on someone else's space, or, I said, I'm just worried about, I said, you shouldn't be getting in any fist fights with people.
That's,
If they tell you to, give you the one finger wave that, start a fist fight up there.
How many dock spaces are there?
A lot.
Like 126, I believe.
Are there 126 people that have the right to that dock space?
That's how it was first divided up by all the properties that fell into Crystal Haven, East Crystal Haven, West Crystal Haven, Crystal Meadows, Crystal Heights, those are the areas that,
Actually, part of North Road as well.
and part of North Road, yep, had,
My God.
Okay,
Oh, yeah,
that's how you
It's a
came up
mess.
with
yeah, this was like in 1969, 70.
So basically, I look at it, we got 3 options. One of them is gonna be extremely unpopular, but legally, we don't have to give them any dock spaces, that's correct? So one option is to say no docks. It's done. You can use it, you can launch your boat there, but you can't moor your boat there. That's not a popular option, I don't like it, but it is an option.
Can we do that as an option? Cause a lot of those houses are sold with lake access.
They have deeded access to the common area for swimming, boating, bathing, and other reasonable activities. The town, to be able to bring order to chaos, they decided to have a lottery, and they had all those number of dock spaces, they had them surveyed, and that's how the dock spaces were divvied out. But according to our attorney, who looked at everything, said dock spaces are considered licenses. They're the deed that was constructed for the town taking that property from the Castleton Development Corporation was only for deeded dock space to get access to the common area for those swimming, bathing, boating, and other reasonable activities. Dock spaces, she said, give them a reasonable notice. I think it says a year. You give them a year's notice that they have to remove their docks. Legally, you can do that. Will there be a fight? Most likely.
Yeah,
Won't be pretty.
so everybody in town though, cause it's town land, has access to that area, correct?
That's my interpretation of it, and I've seen other things saying that the town can limit access to it because of the deed, but.
Okay, so all those houses that have the deeded dock rights that are down there, they pay extra on their property taxes for that, correct? Isn't that an extra, wasn't it like 15,000 extra if you have lake access or
I think it's 30.
whatever?
It's 30,000 additional assessment to your total value of your house. And it's not for docks, it's just for the deeded access to get to use that area.
But everybody in town, regardless of if they have a deeded rights to that, has the ability to use that area, is what you just told me.
Because that's what we've allowed. Whether it's legal or not, I don't really know, because they're getting assessed additional money.
Correct.
That, should the town limit the access to that only for those people?
Which we, I think, could do. But make sure and Rob, don't take this the wrong way, but make sure you have your terminology right. They don't have deeded dock spaces, they have deeded lake access.
Deeded lake access. Yeah.
And over time, what we've discovered is some attorneys have, when they drafted deeds and sold these places, they've told people that you have a dock space and it's been written in the deed, but it's not valid. I talked to our attorney about it and said, an attorney can put anything they want in there, but doesn't mean it's right.
So back to what I was saying, we have 3 options. We either suspend all dock spaces, we continue to put up with what we've put up with for the last 5 or 6 decades, or 7 decades, it's been a long time,
Yeah.
or we figure out some way to delegate it to an association that's formed to manage it. Those are the 3 options we have that I see. Does anyone see a fourth? So personally, I think we should explore the idea of creating an association to police this. And if the people that have deeded lake access want to police this and come up with an organization, or not police might be the wrong word, but organize this and
Manage it.
administrate it and manage it, that we figure out some good way to attempt that. And if that doesn't work, then we have to go back to option one, which I don't want to do. And I don't think anyone wants to do that.
Is that gonna create a power trip though? And what's the, like, I don't want Bob coming and telling me what I can and can't do with something that, I have, cause you gotta understand, if Mike's saying that people have deeded docks in their thing, they're gonna tell Bob, hey, you can't tell me what I can and can't do. I've got the deeded right in this, and then is this gonna create more of an issue for the town?
Possibly.
Or do we just let it fly the way it is? Cause I mean, how big of a deal really is it to go up half a dozen times a year and make a few phone calls?
I can't answer that because I don't usually deal with it.
Yeah.
So you've got people that want to form an association.
Correct. Or they didn't say association, but they'd be willing to help the town, is how they put it, get compliance with whatever the policies, the deeds are, or the.
And what do they want from us?
Nothing. They just want order, because it's just, they watch people come in, use boat, or use docks that aren't supposed to be there, and they have no authority really to, besides saying, where do you live? You don't live here, you can't use this, but there's no, like, the police, they can call the police, I guess, and I talked to Pete about it, and Pete's like, I don't wanna be chasing around people because their boat's bumping into somebody else's boat up here. That's, we could run into those, we bring that on ourselves too, if we do that, but it's, I look at people and say, it's over the water, I can't do anything for you. I hate to tell them that, but once that's over the water and you got boats banging off each other and this person's, squatting on your dock, we can tell them that it's not to get out of here, but, or I can't tell them to make their boat smaller.
Where do we go, board?
So the town did not guarantee everybody 12 feet?
It's, the dock spaces were surveyed, so it's 12 feet, and they're assigned a space. So it was surveyed, there's little, if you can find them now, the pins, some of them have been removed and stuff like that, but we've been up there so many times with tape measures, measuring, trying to find the first one, measure, because if they're in the swamp, they're along Sucker Brook, so you can't find them. So you gotta go, this is number 3, because I know the people that own it, but I'm only guessing, because if they're using the right dock space.
I think that's a lot of the problem, is some of the spots are unusable.
Yeah.
So people just find an empty spot and that's their spot and it just moves on like that.
There's probably at this point,
Probably evolved a lot over the
probably
years.
about 12 spaces that aren't even usable.
I would say probably more than that. If you're using a 12-foot dock, there's more than that. Because you go 12 feet out in the water and it's this deep.
So overgrown. They can make a 6 feet path to their dock space without Laura Dulugalecki coming down and poking them in the eye. But there's no, it's all overgrown. I mean, you can't put even, I don't think you could put a flat bottom anything in there.
I guess I would go with, I'm gonna use the term association just because I don't know however you wanna phrase whatever they wanted to be, and see if they could get it together with everybody down there and maybe do the thing like I was telling Mark, where get 2 spots with 1 dock up the middle. But I don't
Which
think
property does the town own there?
All total, I think it was 10 acres.
And the town mows it?
We paid to mow it, yeah, because it's town they were, at one point when I first got here, other people were mowing it, and I was like, can they claim eminent domain after they maintain this property for so many years? And I was told, you probably should mow it and take care of it and avoid that situation.
Why don't we see if they could start a homeowners association and give them the property?
We did that. We did that already, and they said, once they realized how much they have to pay, because we said, if you sold it to them for $1, and then they pay fair market value on taxes on it amongst all of the deed holders. They're like, it's gonna cost more to pay those taxes on it than what we pay for that $40,000. We figured it out. The town only, after we mow it and do everything, we only bring in like, God, I don't wanna misspeak, less than $10,000 anyway, of all that money that gets brought in. Once we pay for the mowing and maintaining it, it's like $10,000, $7,000 to $10,000 is what we.
Well, if they get assessed at an extra, what'd you say, 30,000?
So they pay whatever the taxes on that for. It is not much. When
Maybe
you
we should
start,
expand the beach over there, they'd look at it differently.
no, I mean, it's eroding away. The little peninsula that juts out there, every year it's getting smaller and smaller. Because bigger boats are hammering the banks, the shores with waves, and it's, the pins that used to be on shore are now out in the water, some of them. But we asked them if they would do that, and when they did the math, Joel and that crew came back and said, yeah, we want our cake and eat it too.
Well, if they think they can manage it, why wouldn't we let them?
I'd be willing to listen to a proposal.
Yeah, I think that has to be something written up that says what are the left and right limits that they have, the boundaries that they have to stay within.
They don't wanna put more work on you, so they have to write the proposal.
Or the PD, because they're calling them going, somebody's, whatever.
They wanna figure out a way to administrate it and keep the town out of it, then I'd be willing to listen to a proposal, but it's on them, not us.
I can reach out to.
I think.
Yeah.
You, everyone agree with that?
Yes.
I think Joel's all ready to go with it. He was a couple of years ago, so.
Yeah.
Then let's hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
All right. I'll just-
Certainly willing to have the conversation.
Of course, now he's in Florida, so.
Well.
Well, Rick's here.
Yeah.
Rick's here, and I'm sure he knows how to use a
Ray's
telephone.
here
Yep,
too.
yep. Or the Zoom there.
So I'm gonna move on to manager's report. Mike, you get we want the 2-minute version, please.
Yes, I'm good with that. Barring your questions, that's it.
Actually, you covered a lot of this already.
I know.
Next.
A lot of it has.
Well, I don't have a blue folder, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing for you. Yeah.
Grants, just, I'm on page 3, the Better Roads Grant and the Highway Safety Improvement Grants. I would encourage the board to take a ride and look at Pencil Mill and Birdseye, what the work the highway crew did. And that's kind of indicative of what Mark was and other people were saying earlier about we want to live in a town that provides good services. You look at the work they did on that road, it was under grants, but those roads are going to last for a while, and the way the amount of effort and time they put into it. So you go to other towns and you can say they did what they had to scoop a little ditch out to get some water in there. Our guys went above and beyond and followed all the MRGP rules and made it a real nice job of a project. So I encourage you to look at those. The highway safety grant, we're still working on that one. I talked to Jeff about it today. We have till the end of December for signage. North Road hasn't been done yet, but most of the roads besides that have, South Street was the big one. So, I'll go there. Transfer station budget is like killing me here. We'll get into, I can talk about it later. We talked about that, the repair of the Freightliner. So on page 5, the sewer infrastructure, I explained in here that what was asked of them has now been completed for the Crystal Meadows into Crystal Beach manhole and the one down here on 4A by Patricia Lane. They've cambered those lines, they found sags in both those pipes, but no water pouring into them. So, don't know where this water's coming from underneath the road. It's been all dried up, so there's nothing flowing at the time. But when it's heavy rains and it wasn't coming into the manhole on Crystal Meadows and going out into that pipe underneath Route 30, the road that was coming from somewhere. But when they looked at it, they didn't see any breaks in the line, and there was nothing pouring in that one. So they're gonna keep an eye on it and said, look, they're gonna pull the manholes, and look down in them when we get next heavy rains and see if they're getting any flows in there. But it's coming from somewhere. But the one down here, they said there's a sag in it. It was where they had a pipe had broke at some point, and they had clamps and fittings, and the middle piece was a little bit sagged, but it's not broken. So they just gotta keep an eye on it, and I wrote in here that, we should be cameraing that line every 5 years at least anyway, so, unless something sooner comes up, but, so I'll have to keep an eye on that one. Yeah, I think I told you, the manholes up on Crystal Meadows into Crystal Beach, the refurbs are done. So that's a 10-year warranty on those, so that's solved. There was water coming into those manholes through the bricks, so that should be resolved. On page numbers 8, the South Street trestle, we have a meeting coming up on the 3rd of December to try to get that re-energized. It kind of fell into the abyss on the V-Trans side. Trucks I've already talked to you about. Vehicle replacement schedules, I gave you copies of that. Former CVS on page 11. John's still working through some heating issues down there with the thermostats. I saw a package over at the office that said rec, and it's a small, I think it's the thermostat, one of the thermostats. He ordered one right now to try it, but we're trying to get that figured out, because there was parts of the building that had no heat and other parts that were breeding sheep hot in there, so he's working on, he needs 3 of them. New ones were $400 each. Refurbed ones are around 90 to 100. Dewey Field, I gave you the update on Dewey. Not really impressed that we're just still where we're at with the condition of that, things that didn't get done, but keep plugging away. Same with the T-ball field. Hydel Field, same thing. There's work to be done. Bleachers needs, or a dugout needs still need to be built. We had the money set aside. We had the stuff ordered from Gilmore's, and they pulled it all back and said it's been sitting here for 8 months. Or, that PO's been open there, so we're gonna have to, we only have really till June to spend some of this money. It's gonna be out of the budget without asking for a resolution, and after I've done that for a couple of years and the work's not getting done, so I feel like a boob to come back to you again and ask for the money to be carried over again if we're not getting it done.
Do we need to hire that out to somebody?
Yeah, I'm thinking that's probably the way to go on this, to know it's gonna get done, and,
What, to like build a dugout?
yeah.
I feel pretty good that we're gonna get all that done down at Dewey.
Yeah.
And without bringing up a whole nother discussion, I really think that we should get rid of those bathrooms, just tear them down. They're just a money pit.
I would agree with that. Somebody's gotta open and close them, somebody's gotta winterize them. We could just put a porta potty down there for,
First night you forget to lock those,
gonna
I
get
went through
trashed.
this. You go down there the next day and somebody's made a mess that nobody here wants to clean up inside of it.
yeah, somebody's gonna have to clean it. Could run a couple porta potties and then we don't have to touch it at all.
Yep, they get cleaned every week.
I would
Nobody
agree with
loves them,
that.
but they suffice.
They work when there's nothing better.
They work fine.
Better than the bushes, I guess.
Yep, we've spent a lot of money on that building down there and it's not functional.
Fire station, I guess, still waiting for them to finish the painting the ceiling in here, and the insulation. One of the things that, if you remember, we paid for 4 new garage doors, right? And
Yeah,
ARPA
the
funds paid for.
highway garage.
Yeah, at the highway garage, and so there's money in there for 2 this year and 2 in the, that's why it's in the budget, to be able to finish that, so I gotta remind Jeff to get a contractor up there, that's, I think over at Doors who did them anyway, to get 2 put on before June 30th.
Need to make sure they get on their list.
Yeah, that's why I got a reminder that,
They'll do the work if you call them.
yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Traffic ordinance, Pete still has some field work to do on that. I'm on page 15. To get that new ordinance to you, because it's so outdated, and our guys go to court, and they're dealing with some of the stuff that's like 1978. So Pete has some measurements of distances of signs and stuff like that he's gotta get, and, I'm confident we'll get it to you by the early part of the year. You know that you authorize it for the Assistance to Firefighter Grant, so that's already started. They've been corresponding with us back and forth, and Dan's already given them a bunch of information, so, they got on that one early. 18th of December, they're doing the fire department training on the new ladder, so then that can go be put into service after that, and driver's training has to be done doing that.
Is that the one that's open to the public to come see it? Or no?
Yeah, they should be right here.
They'll do it out in the yard here or whatever?
Last time we went to the university, so I'm not sure what they're gonna do. They wanna be able to stretch it out to the buildings up there.
No, but we talked about, putting it on display for the taxpayers.
I think the guys are trying to come up with a plan to do that.
Yeah.
They put the banner up with it
Specific to get the fire.
yesterday.
to use the machine.
Be able to use it.
Sunday.
Okay.
Sunday, yesterday. Yeah, they put the banner up, and they strung the library Christmas lights on the tree there. They used that new ladder, that aerial to do that yesterday.
Nice.
I'll send a letter to Doc Dirksen and his wife about all the work they did for the flower gardens. Trees we talked about. That's it. Any questions?
Anybody have questions for Mike?
Very good report, thank you.
Let's move on to purchase orders. I have 3 here, Rob.
Yep.
And I only gave you 2 of them.
All right, we all set?
I'm ready when you
I
are.
would make a motion to approve purchase order 053132 to Lexipol LLC for grant writing services for the sum of $2,450.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
That's fire department. I didn't hear that in there, so.
Fire Department.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What's the date? 21st, 24th?
25th.
25th.
Would make a motion to approve purchase order number 053125 to McDuff Electric for Sucker Brook Pump Station repairs for the sum of $2,597.25.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I would make a motion to approve purchase order number 053094 to WorkSafe for, it looks like sign posts and fasteners for the sum of $2,855.50.
I'll also second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can move on to warrants, Rob.
I would make a motion to approve warrant number 1125R for the sum of $3,199. Warrant number 1121 for the sum of $14,755.29. Warrant number 1125 for the sum of $48,771.49. Warrant number 1114P for the sum of $20,900.68. And warrant number 1121P for the sum of $21,540.68.
I'll second.
I moved and seconded. Any discussion on the warrants? All in favor?
Aye.
I figured out where all my other stuff is.
Home because I got it at 2 different times. And when I went and off the shelf today, all I grabbed was the folder.
So they're in the other pile.
It was under it. And
They're in
I
the
just
other
grabbed
pile.
the folder.
I got an action item for you tonight, Rob, but we'll talk about it in a minute. If you agree to accept it.
I'm feeding. What it is. Been a long night.
Well, I gotta drive to Burlington tomorrow. It's not, how far you gotta drive tomorrow?
Not far. I'm right in East Harbor Road.
But at least I don't have to leave till 9:30 in the morning.
Well, there you go. Get a little rest in the morning.
It's not like going to Concord, Mass. When I used to go to Concord, Mass.
Look over, you got
I know what that's.
I get
Yeah.
Pittsburgh and Leominster.
How many are there?
Yeah.
Here you go, Bob.
I'll set with those. Okay, they gotta go that way now.
I do.
You know,
There's only 5 of them though. We're getting there, guys. 10:21.
Did Mom tell you I stopped by the shop Sunday?
She did.
Looking at all your nice trees.
Oh.
Trying to convince my wife to buy a real tree rather than put up a fake one.
Oh, really?
She said the dog will enjoy peeing all over that.
You better not hesitate.
I haven't taken my dog out the front door yet, and he hasn't seen the trees there since we've got him, so I'm curious as to what he's gonna do. Because normally he just goes shooting out around the corner and runs out back, but he's
How
gonna
many
be
trees, so
surprised.
little time.
Yeah.
So the more or less story is don't buy the one closest to your door.
Yeah, yeah, if it's in the door area.
Okay, let's move on to, select board comments or concerns. Mary Lee, you're up.
I don't have any, thank you.
Rob, you're up.
I'm good for tonight.
Mark?
I'm good.
Bob?
I'm good.
So am I. So we're gonna move on to action items. Mike, ARPA and budget, your 2 big ones, along with all the other things you take care of every day. I'm going to be looking into animal control and getting with Pete and, Mike Davidson, right? Or no, Mike Alexander.
Mike Alexander.
Mike Alexander about the, lady's concern, Miss Mary Atkinson. That's mine. Rob, would you be the spearhead on the common area, you know, talk to the guys up there if they need someone to talk to from the town?
Yeah.
And Mike, you can direct them to talk to Rob, and we'll see if they can come up with some sort of a plan that will work.
Yep.
And just let us know what's going on.
Okay.
I don't think you gotta do a lot except be the guy to answer the phone.
Yeah, that's fine.
Can I give me your number?
Yeah, just give him the bait shop number.
And, I'm gonna ask Mark and Bob to come up with the options for that dump truck that we spent 45 minutes talking about today.
Okay.
Because I am not a truck guy, first one to admit it. And, if you guys could come up with, basically, there's what, 3 scenarios possibly? Because I think a full manual transmission is off the table, right?
Correct.
So, you know, come up with what you think the 3 or 2 or whatever the options are that exist at this point in time, and I realize it's a rolling stone and it's gonna be kind of difficult. But if you could come up with a plan,
We don't have a lot of options, so.
well, there's only 2 or 3 that I could see. So if you can just delineate those onto a piece of paper, and then we can discuss it as a board, And Mary Lee, we may or may not make a decision while you're enjoying yourself in the Caribbean, because your action item is to go have a good time. Okay,
I will.
anything else?
Yeah, so we got the letter from the Castleton Taxpayers
I
Association.
want to talk about that in the executive session, please.
Okay.
And I gotta get a hold of Cutting It Sweet about Dewey Field.
Oh, that's right.
And Mark was gonna try to get us an update on that, and then before the next meeting, right? On Dewey Field.
Yes. Yep, I actually had a meeting with that today, and with Andy Vermillier, and we have a document put together to submit. Hopefully we'll hear something back shortly. But you never know till it's done, but it seems very promising at this point.
If that's the case, then I think we are ready to go into executive session for, I'm not sure what this would be called.
I have one for personnel, so.
Okay, personnel it is. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to go into executive session at 10:25 for personnel
I'll second it.
With the board and the town manager?
with the board and the town manager.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.